Chapter 1271. What is the harbinger of the apocalypse's end? Gu Qingshan asked as they walked. Unclear. There aren't many similar titles, but each of them carries a completely different meaning. The war god Yui replied. You will need to carefully observe her fate in order to understand the meaning of this title. In other words, I will need to find the answer from her. Indeed, Gu Qingshan didn't ask any more questions and followed the three of them forward. Below their feet, gray fog continued to fill the air. Layers upon layers of fog manifested as a flight of stairs, bringing the four of them into the boundless chaos. Gu Qingshan found that her spirit sense was completely useless. She couldn't see anything as far as her eyes could see. Clink, clink, clink. As they walked, Yi Ruxi's shackles clanked against each other, giving off a series of metallic noises. After walking for a while, she had clearly relaxed. From now on, we've completely left the world I came from, she said. You could have escaped before, why didn't you escape on your own? Zhang Yongho asked. Yi Ruxi shook her head. If I had left, those normal people would have been easily killed by the apocalyptic monsters, and I definitely wouldn't have allowed that to happen. She turned around and glanced at Gu Qingshan, Zhang Yongho, and Yi Feili. Thank you for dealing with the apocalypse, I can now leave without worry, she said gratefully. No need to be so formal, we're comrades now, Zhang Yongho smiled and replied. Yi Feili also nodded. Right? What kind of place is that secret palace exactly? Gu Qingshan asked. Yi Ruxi replied. We're almost there, but entering the palace is only the first step. The final step will depend on your compatibility. Compatibility with what? Yi Feili asked. The awaitings. Yi Ruxi appeared respectful and replied. She suddenly stopped, reached her hand out, and lightly pressed it into the void of space in front of her. The gray fog around them began to churn, then quickly parted to the sides. A towering bronze gate gradually appeared in the fog. It was impossible to tell the boundaries of this gate, nor how thick it was. Just by looking at it, one could feel the endless vicissitudes and ancientness. It was as if this bronze door had always been hidden in the fog since ancient times and had never been discovered by anyone. The door opened. However, a faint layer of green light enveloped the void. Don't touch it. This is an enchanted barrier. Without permission, no one is allowed to enter. While Yi Ruxi was talking to the three of them, a sharp screech suddenly resounded from an extremely distant location. In just a few breaths, the voice had already approached the four of them. Two figures descended and stood in front of the four of them. Soul Shrieker, Raging Flame Traveler. They were covered in wounds and were bleeding profusely. It was obvious that they had experienced a great battle. Their auras had long been restored to their peak state, while Gu Qingshan and the others were still in a suppressed state. What are you fighting? Gu Qingshan asked. The Soul Shrieker smirked and asked in return, Do you think I'll tell you? The Raging Flame Traveler also replied, Don't even think about getting any information from us. They stared at Gu Qingshan, their killing intent boiling, but they still didn't dare to act. They had thrown themselves into chaos, and chaos ruled over everything, not allowing them to fight at this crucial moment. A second later, gray text quickly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Frowny face, attention, this is the final battle of the apotheotic combat path. A single line of text immediately drew the attention of both sides. Everyone looked over with rapt attention. Lines of gray text appeared. Frowny face, order can no longer reach this place. You are safe for now, but as you shoulder the ultimate mission of chaos, you must accept the true trial of chaos. To become a true deity, you will need to search for it yourself. From this moment onwards, you must raise the flames of your own will, walk with your own destiny as your footsteps, search for that unique path, and ascend to the deity seat that belongs to you. Those who succeed will become the deity of chaos, and wield the true power of the era. Go, the secret palace of chaos has been opened. After the gray text finished displaying, it slowly faded away in front of everyone's eyes. All of a sudden, another line of text appeared. Yi Ru-shi is a natural-born deity of chaos. She does not need to do anything other than wait for their results. Everyone turned to Yi Ru-shi. In fact, after entering the secret palace, I won't be able to help you either. Each of you will have to rely on yourself, Yi Ru-shi said. Do you have any insights or experiences? Zhang Young-ho asked. It wasn't just Gu Qingshan and Yi Feili, even the Soul Shrieker and Raging Flame Traveler perked up their ears. Yi Ru-shi shook her head. Telling you my insights and experiences would only be harming you, because everyone's situation is different. Everyone was a bit disappointed. Yi Ru-shi's expression didn't change, but she silently sent her voice to the other three. Listen carefully, a portion of the statues of the awaitings will descend upon this place. As soon as you touch these glowing statues, they will awaken the awaitings. They will test you, and when they are satisfied with you, they will give their chaos seeds to you, allowing you to become deities of chaos and create a new situation for chaos. You can also touch those broken statues, but there will be a certain degree of risk. Because those awaitings are already dead, their chaos seeds are likely to be incomplete and withered. Although you will be able to obtain power after obtaining them, no one can say for sure whether or not they will be able to help you go further. Chaos seeds? Gu Qingshan asked. Yi Ru-shi replied. Indeed, power that starts from zero, gradually growing into a supernatural power system. Gu Qingshan immediately asked. Wouldn't that be the same as the order and chaos templates? No, this isn't loading, evolution, or growth, but rather the ultimate power. A gift and blessing from the creator of chaos, Yi Ru-shi replied. The three of them held their breath. The creator of chaos. Does order have a creator? Gu Qingshan immediately asked. Those are the other awaitings, they aren't here, nor would they respond to my call, Yi Ru-shi replied. Gu Qingshan's thoughts quickly turned, then suddenly asked the war god Yue. I'm guessing that there should also be a unique deity on the side of order, who shares a similar status as Yi Ru-shi. There is, the war god Yue replied. What kind of deity is it? Gu Qingshan asked. Known as the Dormant Era Song of Night, but he has never appeared before, the war god Yue replied. Gu Qingshan fell silent. The harbinger of apocalypse's end. The Dormant Era's Song of Night. A title represented a mission, achievement, power, experience, as well as the laws of fate. Only by being recognized by a certain law could a title be considered a true title. Such a title contained the power of a certain domain, so it wasn't something that could be casually said. Which meant that a title could also reveal the secrets of a certain entity to a certain degree. There seems to be a mysterious connection between the corresponding titles of order and chaos. In the end, other than being mortal enemies, what kind of relationship do order and chaos have? As Gu Qingshan slowly thought about it, she had a vague guess. At this point, Yi Ru-shi reached her hand out and lightly placed it on the green barrier. She muttered, Dormant awaitings, I have brought the successors of chaos. They desire power to complete the mission of chaos. A mystical rune appeared on the green barrier. A split second later, everyone was sucked inside. Chapter 1272. A green glow flashed through the palace for a split second. Several people appeared. Gu Qingshan, Yi Ru-shi, Zhang Young-ho, Yi Feili, the Soul Shrieker and the Raging Flame Traveler. Yi Ru-shi crossed her arms and said, Now, you may attempt to communicate with the awaitings. Everyone looked around. The entire palace was forged from bronze, empty and desolate, so deep that they couldn't see the end of it. Inside the bronze palace, numerous statues silently stood without moving. These statues all had different appearances. Some were humanoid, some were monsters that no one had ever seen before, some were neither monsters nor humans, so it was unknown what they were. Gu Qingshan saw a sphere covered in spikes that was surrounded by a triangular frame forged from bronze. These are awaitings as well? Everyone was silently surprised, but quickly regained their composure. Unimaginable, these awaitings created chaos. As long as they thought of this matter, It wasn't so hard for them to accept these strange statues again. The Soul Shrieker asked, "Is there anything that we need to pay attention to?" Yi Rushi replied, "There isn't. It will depend on whether or not you can gain their favor when you touch the statues." The Soul Shrieker and Raging Flame Traveler were a bit doubtful. Yi Rushi went silent and didn't say another word. She silently used her telepathy to whisper to Gu Qingshan's trio, "Be respectful and tell the statues in your minds that you desire power and desire to contribute more to the era of chaos." The three of them understood her meaning. At this point, no one moved. Everyone seemed to be observing the statues. After all, whether or not they could ascend to the deity throne of chaos would depend on this opportunity. This was an extremely subtle moment. A second later, someone finally moved. Gu Qingshan circulated his spirit energy and abruptly flew towards a certain direction. Before everyone could react, he was already standing in front of a ruined statue. "Yi Rushi, is this the statue you were talking about?" Gu Qingshan loudly asked. As he asked, he had already reached his hand out to touch the ruined statue. In a split second, boom! A scorching wave of air assaulted them, pushing Gu Qingshan a few dozen feet away. The Raging Flame Traveler replaced Gu Qingshan and stood in front of the broken statue. Its power had been unsealed. Although it could not kill Gu Qingshan due to its chaotic command, it could easily push Gu Qingshan away. Facing the shockwave, Gu Qingshan struggled to stand up. He said angrily, "There are so many statues, why did you snatch the one I picked?" "You picked it?" The Raging Flame Traveler looked at him, then at Yi Rushi, then coldly scoffed. "I knew you would have held back." It revealed a victorious smile and placed its hand on the broken statue. A faint light of decay appeared on the statue. In an instant, the Raging Flame Traveler was wrapped in this faint light and disappeared from the bronze hall. Gu Qingshan sighed and muttered to herself, "It got ahead of me." Everyone fell silent. Yi Rushi silently sent her voice, "I never said anything about that statue." "I know," Gu Qingshan cut her off, "but you did say that it would be very difficult for a broken statue to obtain a complete seed of chaos, didn't you?" Yi Rushi froze, then sent her voice, "That's right, so I let it go," Gu Qingshan replied. It was now that Yi Rushi understood what happened just now. A Gu Qingshan had tricked the other party. What a cunning fellow! Yi Rushi silently muttered in her mind. All of a sudden, a clap resounded. Everyone turned to see that it was the Soul Shrieker. While clapping, it spoke in both male and female voices. What a good acting! Gu Qingshan didn't mind and smiled. "How did you notice?" "Your companions. Their expressions," the Soul Shrieker replied. "Your companions all had blank expressions on their faces. And this deity of chaos, when you mentioned the broken statue, she appeared confused, which means she didn't tell you anything about that statue. Yuri trying to deceive us." It shrugged and continued, "To be frank, if you were playing this game by yourself, I might have fallen for it, but now that you have these companions with you, I can tell from their expressions that you're trying to trick me again." Impressive, Gu Qingshan praised. Zhang Yongho and Yi Feili also realized what was going on. "Who would have thought that we wouldn't be able to catch up to you?" Zhang Yongho sighed and took out a few sunglasses from his chest. This is a standard for those in the martial world, capable of concealing any changes in expression. He put one on himself, then gave a pair of sunglasses to Yi Feili. Yi Feili said, "But we've already been exposed." "Mend the pen after the sheep is lost," Zhang Yongho replied. Yi Feili took the sunglasses and put them on. Zhang Yongho then gave Yi Rushi another pair. Yi Rushi replied, "I have an eye mask and a mask, but you also exposed your emotions earlier," Zhang Yongho said. Yi Rushi had no choice but to accept and put it on. Zhang Yongho turned to Gu Qingshan, put the other pair of sunglasses away and said, "You don't need it, you're the best actor." Gu Qingshan. He turned to the Soul Shrieker and said, "If you've noticed but you didn't tell the Raging Flame Traveler the truth, I'm a bit confused." The Soul Shrieker turned into a male voice and spoke in a low voice. I am the leader of the era of chaos, the strongest true deity. Other than that useless god of life, I don't need any other trash to take away my authority. It abruptly sat down on the spot and closed its eyes. Before you've chosen your statues, I will not move, it finally said. When they heard that, they couldn't help but look at each other. How should I say this? In a situation where they don't know anything, only observing the choices of Gu Qingshan's group would provide them with accurate information. This was the only way, but it was also a bit shameless. Who would have thought that the Soul Shrieker would choose such a shameless method? Alright, ignore it, we'll choose our own statues, Gu Qingshan sent her voice. Yi Ru, she also said. That's right, everyone has to see, feel, and explore for themselves in order to find an awaiting that suits them. An awaiting that suits you might not necessarily suit that monster. So go, you'll have to try and choose for yourselves. This made sense, so the three of them nodded. I'm going to take a look around. Zhang Young-ho headed in a certain direction. Then I'll go this way. Something seems to be attracting me here, Yi Fei said. He changed his direction and walked forward, observing the statues of the awaitings. Gu Qingshan stood still. He had also sensed some sort of indistinct calling out to him. This is a very familiar sensation. Who exactly would be in such a place? The Soul Shrieker opened its eyes a bit and silently observed everyone's movements. At this point, Yi Ru, she turned to Gu Qingshan and asked in confusion, Gu Qingshan, why aren't you going? Gu Qingshan regained his senses and glanced at the Soul Shrieker who was sitting on the ground. Their gazes met. At this point, although everything was stable and there were no signs of danger, both of them understood a certain fact. This was the final battle of life and death. Gu Qingshan smiled. Of course I'm going. He no longer paid any attention to the Soul Shrieker, found his direction, and headed deeper into the palace. The palace was filled with statues. Gu Qingshan's footsteps didn't stop as he walked past each statue. This calling sensation, where exactly is it coming from? He silently thought to himself. It was like countless whispers. Each time he walked in the right direction, the voice would become louder and louder, but if he walked in the wrong direction, the voice would weaken. Gu Qingshan slowly tried to find the right direction and reached a corner of the palace. There was also a unique statue here. The statue depicted a human figure made of sand and gravel. However, this statue was so damaged that even the face of the person couldn't be recognized. That faintly discernible call came from this statue. Gu Qingshan observed it for a while, but could only recognize that it was a female figure. But who exactly is this? His gaze fell onto the gravel. Shah. Gu Qingshan pondered, then suddenly recalled a certain person. The everlasting sand, the controller of time, the queen of the elemental fairies, the legendary lady. Fusey. She was also my secret protector. As long as she was here, no one would know that I was the earth god of the four pillar gods of the void. But why would her statue appear here? Could she be in a waiting as well? Countless mysteries appeared in Gu Qingshan's mind, making it impossible for him to find the truth for now. Regardless, Gu Qingshan muttered, reached his hand out and lightly touched the damaged statue. The gravel that made up the female statue scattered. An invisible gust of wind slowly drifted. The gravel quickly spun in the wind and completely enveloped Gu Qingshan. At the very next moment, Gu Qingshan disappeared from the Bronze Palace. On the other side of the Bronze Palace, the Soul Shrieker abruptly stood up. It was originally silently observing the three of them, with its gaze focused on Gu Qingshan. Who would have thought? Gu Qingshan chose a broken statue and disappeared. Could it be, he has awakened an awaiting and is currently undergoing that awaiting's trial? The Soul Shrieker clenched its fists tightly. Once Gu Qingshan passes the trial, what awaits me would be, I can't wait any longer. The Soul Shrieker quickly strode forward and began to choose a statue in the palace. While choosing, it was silently analyzing all of Gu Qingshan's actions since entering the Bronze Palace. Gu Qingshan. The first time, he chose a damaged statue to trick the raging flame traveler away. The second time, he chose a damaged statue for himself. A damaged statue. The soul shrieker slowly understood. Perhaps this was a subconscious action of humans. Even if they were trying to deceive others, they would instinctively make the correct choice. The soul shrieker's gaze scanned through the bronze palace. There weren't many damaged statues, but there were still a few. Very well, I'll choose from these damaged statues. The soul shrieker made its final decision. Chapter 1273. Two statues. One statue had several hundred skulls glued together to form a gigantic face. The other statue was a bit damaged, but it was made from a pair of coiling dragons, one blue and one red, giving it a mysterious appearance. The soul shrieker stood between the two statues, unable to make a decision. The gigantic face made from several hundred skulls gave it a very unique feeling. But the statue of the two coiling dragons also gave it a familiar sense of power. Furthermore, the statue of the two coiling dragons was also damaged. Damaged, the soul shrieker muttered and made its final decision. It placed its hand on the two dragons and lightly touched them. The two dragons instantly came to life, circled around the soul shrieker for a bit, then took it away from the bronze palace. After the soul shrieker left, Yi Fei walked around the palace once and arrived at where the soul shrieker disappeared. He stared closely at the statue. The gigantic face made from several hundred skulls. Yi Fei silently stood there for a while, then suddenly took out the clown mask and put it on. I yearn for your mighty power. He spoke to the statue. The statue abruptly moved. The hundreds of skulls began to move in groups, causing one's scalp to go numb, but also allowing the gigantic face to display its expression and voice. Puny carrier of chaos, clown of the mortal realm, why should I grant you power? The gigantic face looked down at the clown and asked. The clown respectfully bowed, then replied, The world needs me to display your great power. The gigantic face spoke with a deep rumbling voice. Tell me, how do you think true chaos can be achieved? The clown thought for a bit, then replied, Will and purpose are not chaos. The essence of chaos is to turn everything into nothingness. I shall grant you this chance. Take the test. Saying so, the gigantic face abruptly opened its mouth and swallowed Yi Fei whole. A split second later, the gigantic face also disappeared from the bronze palace. Zhang Yongho circled around and returned to where Yi Rushi was standing. He took out 2 cups, poured some liquor, and offered one of them to Yi Rushi. I saw you circling around. What's the matter? You still haven't found a suitable awaiting? Yi Rushi questioned. Zhang Yongho said, Since Gu Qingshan and Yi Fei are already compatible, then I don't have to. Yi Rushi asked in surprise. Why not? Zhang Yongho finished the wine, lit a cigar for himself and said, My heart yearns for order, so there won't be any chaotic awaiting. That suits me. Yi Rushi thought for a bit and smiled. I remember you said you were the boss of an assassin's guild, she said. Yes. Zhang Yongho nodded. Do hitmen also yearn for order? Yi Rushi asked. Those beasts in human clothing who ride roughshod over others are my prey. I enjoy the process. Zhang Yongho puffed out a smoke ring and continued, I hope for the world to be peaceful and for everyone to have their own place. To achieve this goal, I'm willing to hunt for my entire life. Yi Rushi drank the entire bottle, then gestured for Zhang Yongho to pour another for her. I'm a member of the Chaos faction. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you for telling me that you yearn for order? She smiled and asked. Zhang Yongho filled up the 2 glasses, then replied, You're not someone who's blinded by power, otherwise your world would have already been destroyed. He handed the glass to Yi Rushi. Yi Rushi stared closely at the amber liquid inside the glass and muttered, Not only are you able to control your power to such a small degree, but you also possess such firm conviction. You truly are a kindred spirit. She raised the glass. A toast to you and to the rest of us. A toast to everyone who couldn't figure it out. This title caused both of them to chuckle. They clinked their glasses together. While they waited, the entire bottle of liquor was emptied. A faint light slowly appeared in front of them. The sound of graceful and soothing singing and dancing could be heard from within the light, causing those who heard it to feel tranquil. Gu Qingshan was enveloped by the power of warp and rushed straight into the light. Gu Qingshan slowly landed on the ground. This was a cathedral, or perhaps the top-floor observation deck of a palace. A woman was standing on top of the observation deck, wielding a scepter in her hand and wearing a crown on her head, her back towards Gu Qingshan as she observed the mountains and rivers below. A glorious scene. The woman turned around, then softly chanted, "Time cannot be disrupted, only when it returns to its original course can living beings be at peace." An invisible force fell upon Gu Qingshan's body, slowly dispelling some sort of tiny disorder. Gu Qingshan knew what this was, so she carefully observed the other party. Although she appeared a bit too young, she could faintly make out Fuzi's figure. Gu Qingshan bowed. "Milady, long time no see," the woman smiled and replied. "You've grown so quickly that even I can't help but admire the Earth Creator's vision. Milady, are you in a waiting of chaos?" Gu Qingshan asked. Fuzi smiled and replied, "It's a long story, Earth God, you should know more by now." Fuzi waved her scepter and lightly tapped the void of space. Heaven and earth changed. The world faded away. Another world manifested, circling around the two of them. "The reality gate has been closed," following Fuzi's voice. The two gates that connected heaven and earth abruptly closed. Countless entities cheered. Quite a few of them were crying tears of joy. The apocalypse of the infinite worlds destroyed everything. Only the most peerless entities, through their unimaginable power, managed to enter the reality gate in order to prolong their existence and await the end of the apocalypse. Fuzi continued. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask, what was the apocalypse outside the reality gate like? Fuzi seemed unwilling to recall that scene and only uttered two words. Endless, endless. Gu Qingshan carefully pondered the meaning of this word. Fuzi replied, "After waiting for so many years, the apocalypse outside the reality gate showed no signs of weakening at all. As time passed, a few particularly weak apocalypses managed to infiltrate the reality gate. We've all finally realized one thing. We must come up with a way to study the apocalypse, find a way to fight against and end it. Due to the difference in ideology, we split into two factions. One faction believes that the apocalypse cannot be fought against. Only by making the apocalypse realize that all living beings have perished would the world return to its primitive state. At that point, the apocalypse would gradually end and a new era would begin. The other faction believes that the existence and destruction of living beings would not affect the apocalypse, and that the apocalypse would never cease. Once living beings appear again, the apocalypse would follow them like a shadow, so the only way out is to fight against it. Fighting against the apocalypse requires greater power, greater wisdom, and a better opportunity. Once living beings are strong enough, one day we would be able to win against the apocalypse. Or at the very least, after the reality gate collapses, we would have the power to protect ourselves. At this point, she turned to Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan replied, "I'm guessing that this is the origin of both order and chaos." Indeed, Fuzi displayed a look of praise and said, "The Wu Chaos faction had attempted to accomplish some destruction and obtained quite a good result. Around the two of them, scenes of worlds being destroyed appeared. As these worlds fell into chaos's destruction, the apocalypse also slowly faded away. Because the apocalypse had lost its target. The Order faction was also busy educating living beings, allowing numerous brilliant civilizations to emerge from the reality gate. These civilizations then came up with many ways to fight against the apocalypse. One world after another appeared in front of Gu Qingshan's eyes. He saw numerous technological, magic type, cultivation type, void type, mystic type, and various other worlds. Countless great people and heroes appeared one after another in the river of time, leading their civilizations towards prosperity. Fuzi's voice came. However, chaos and order will eventually have to fight. Gu Qingshan pondered briefly, then nodded. Chaos wants to destroy all living beings, while order wishes for living beings to grow stronger. This is an irreconcilable conflict between the two sides, Fusey continued. A great war broke out between order and chaos. But in the end, both sides realized that if this continued, other than both sides suffering heavy losses, there would be no other outcome. Because of that, both sides poured everything they had into either order or chaos, hoping that living beings would either rely on chaos to destroy themselves or rely on order to prosper. Victory and defeat would be decided by living beings, while both sides had expended too much power to create order and chaos. Only occasionally waking up, or communicating with us through dreams. Hearing this, Gu Qingshan suddenly recalled the two titles. The Harbinger of Apocalypse's End. The Era of Slumber's Song of Night. He spoke. After chaos destroys all living beings, the apocalypse will also end. At that moment, a harbinger will awaken the awaitings of the Gu Chaos faction. They will be reborn and win their victory. Similarly, as the apocalypse rages on, a harbinger of night will summon the slumbering awaitings, hoping that they will grant them power to aid and guide living beings to win against the apocalypse. Fusey nodded. That is indeed the case. Then what about you? Which side are you on? Gu Qingshan asked. Fusey replied. You go first. Gu Qingshan casually replied. Of course I don't want living beings to be destroyed. Everything I've fought for is for the sake of protecting them. If anyone dares to touch the people I protect, I will kill them. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 1274. Lady C, I believe that it wasn't just me. The Earth Creator should also be a great entity on the side of order. It had always been secretly promoting the development of civilization, and even helped me obtain the twin swords Heaven and Earth, Gu Qingshan slowly said. Although the Earth Creator had already passed away, Gu Qingshan still remembered what the Earth Creator had said at a certain moment in the age of old. Normally, the heroes of humanity's history would feel that they had paid a great deal of effort in order to achieve victory. Very few would be able to recognize my care and assistance just now, Lady Fusey also said. Order wishes for living beings to become stronger to fight against the apocalypse. From this, it could be deduced that the Earth Creator belonged to the Order faction, and Lady Fusey was its old friend. Then, Lady Fusey's identity was as clear as day. Lady Fusey looked at Gu Qingshan's expression, then slowly smiled and said, You're very smart, me. You humans have a word for it, spy. You're a spy? Gu Qingshan asked in surprise. Indeed, but your statue had already been destroyed, Lady Fusey replied. Even I couldn't remain undetected by the enemy for a long time, so after completing a few things, I faked my death to escape from chaos, Gu Qingshan said. Then the statue, Lady Fusey replied. The statue was the catalyst for the dreamscape. You're currently inside my dream. After the dream ends, nothing will happen, and no one will be able to verify it. This was a measure I left behind in the chaos faction. I knew that at a certain point in the future, someone would need this dreamscape. After all, your current situation is extremely dangerous, Lady Fusey said. Gu Qingshan was surprised. Thinking about his current situation, he slowly understood. I'm doing this to defeat the Soul Shrieker. After all, as long as it's on the deific throne of chaos, I won't be able to kill it, Gu Qingshan helplessly replied. Fusey raised her scepter in front of Gu Qingshan and continued. Gu Qingshan, you are the Earth God, one of the four gods who created worlds from nothing, a great existence of order. If you were to become the deity of chaos, the awaitings of the chaos faction would immediately notice it. This is an extremely dangerous path, and I have long foreseen this scene in the River of Time. She whispered an incantation. May the great power of order reach my dream and be with me. Ray after ray of light descended from above, landing on Fusey's body. Behind her, various great powers manifested in concrete forms. They were the slumbering ones of the Order faction, awakened by Lady Fusey. They all released friendly auras towards Gu Qingshan. This is a crucial battle between order and chaos. Fusey muttered in a low voice. One of the four pillar gods of the void, the earth god Gu Qingshan, this is the moment of the era of chaos's descent, as well as the awakening of order. Your identity cannot be exposed to the enemy from the void of space. A snow-white piece of parchment silently appeared and unfurled in front of the two of them. It was a contract written in the ancient Elvish language Frownyface. By this secret contract, the controller of time, the sand of inextinguishable, the lady of legends, the queen of elemental elves, the fairy of time whose real name is Fusey, and the master of the earth Saint Pillar, Gu Qingshan, hereby enter into a secret contract. All information regarding the Earth Saint Pillar shall be sealed and kept secret by her, until the master of the Earth Saint Pillar, Gu Qingshan, dissolves this contract. At the end of the parchment, two eye-catching blood-red fingerprints could be seen. They were the fingerprints that Fusey and Gu Qingshan left behind. Fusey stared closely at this parchment and sighed emotionally. At this point, I alone cannot protect your identity. Her voice abruptly became louder as she chanted. Within the ashes of time, all secrets shall be revealed, and we shall all awaken from our slumber and write our names on this contract, jointly bearing the secret of the Earth God's identity. With the great power of all of us who slumber as proof, no one shall be able to discover the Earth God's true identity. The Earth God shall use the mortal body of all living beings of the infinite worlds to ascend to the position of deity of chaos. Boom! All of the great power turned into a blinding light that gathered at the tip of the scepter. Fusey lightly tapped the scepter on the parchment. Instantly, the parchment turned into countless sprites of light that scattered into Gu Qingshan's body. Fusey looked at Gu Qingshan and smiled. Your identity has now been concealed, but since you are currently within the Bronze Palace of Chaos, you will still need to obtain a seed of chaos. Otherwise, you will still be exposed. Gu Qingshan thought briefly and replied, Your power might not be enough. Indeed, Fusey replied, my power can only form a seed of order, so we must use another method. She raised the scepter and lightly tapped the void of space. A diamond-shaped purple sprite of light, a circular cluster of gray mist, and a glowing dark green leaf appeared in front of the two of them. Lady Fusey explained. These three chaos dreamscapes were dreamscapes of chaos that I had secretly collected while taking advantage of a few unexpected incidents. They contain the ultimate law of chaos, originating from the deceased awaitings, so they will not draw suspicion. Gu Qingshan asked. In other words, I will be transported into a dreamscape to inherit the chaos seed. Lady Fusey replied. I have already cleared these three dreamscapes of chaos once, so there are no obstructions. You only need to enter one of them and obtain the corresponding dreamscape soul artifact to inherit the chaos seed. Gu Qingshan glanced at the three dreamscapes of chaos. No wonder the war god Ui said that mortals can only dream about obtaining dreamscape soul artifact. So I really do need to enter dreamscapes. Fusey continued. Use your mind to sense them and communicate with them. See which one is the most suitable for you. Gu Qingshan carefully sensed them and smiled at Lady Fusey. I'm going, we will be with you. You must definitely win against that deity of chaos. Leave it to me. Gu Qingshan lightly tapped the dark green leaf with his hand. Instantly, both he and the dark green leaf disappeared from Lady Fusey's sight. A forest. A boundless, lush forest. This entire world was filled with trees without a single living creature. On the ground, lush greenery was everywhere. Intense gusts of wind blew down from above, blowing away the tall grass that was several people tall, revealing numerous large skeletons as well as withered corpses of various shapes and sizes. Gu Qingshan stood on top of a large tree, observing this dreamscape world. Lady Fusey said that everything had been cleared, he muttered, then abruptly turned his gaze towards the distance. At the farthest edge of the horizon, a gigantic tree that connected heaven and earth took up the center of his vision. Seems like that's the place. Gu Qingshan's figure flickered and flew towards the gigantic tree. The world was silent, other than the sound of wind, vegetation, and corpses, nothing else could be seen. Then, what exactly is the test of this chaos dreamscape? While thinking that, Gu Qingshan slowly approached the gigantic tree. He finally arrived in front of the tree. A mystical calling resounded in his mind. Up there, Gu Qingshan looked up, then began to climb towards the top of the tree. Various corpses were hanging from the top of this tree. He would run into a large number of monster corpses every few steps. Gu Qingshan didn't care about that and continued to climb until he reached the top of the tree. As he looked around, he saw the item he was looking for. It was a dark green longbow. Gu Qingshan took the bow. Lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Ui frowny face. You've obtained the possession of the power of chaos, the seed of the power of chaos, dreamscape soul artifact, bow of fallen souls. Com. Miao Shu House. Chapter 1275. Different from the forest world where Gu Qingshan was. In another dreamscape world. The entire world was a gigantic city. Yi Fei descended from above and landed in a dark and narrow alleyway. A giant face made of countless heads appeared from the void of space, looking down at him. Come, citizen of chaos, world destroyer, ordinary and insignificant fellow, let me see how far you can go. Saying so, the giant face disappeared. A black watch with a white plate appeared out of thin air, hovering in front of Yi Fei. Lines of gray text appeared from the void of space. Frowny face. This dreamscape trial has officially begun. You've obtained the dreamscape soul artifact. Clock of Sin, endless blank time. You can do anything you want in this city, said Yi Zichen. The Clock of Sin will gradually grade you based on your performance. The lowest rating is 0. 0. The highest rating is 12 o'clock. You must think of a way to increase your rating from 0 to 12 o'clock within 12 hours. Only then will you obtain the Dreamscape Soul Artifact, as well as the seed of ultimate chaos power bestowed upon you by the awaiting. By the way, your power has been unsealed. The limit of individual strength in this world is 3 times your personal strength. Display it as much as you want. After the text was displayed, it quickly disappeared. Yi Fei reached his hand out and put the watch on his left hand. Using time as a rating system without any hints, this is quite rare, so how do I increase my rating? While Yi Fei was thinking, she heard some commotion. A series of explosions could be heard from outside the alleyway. The shrill sound of police sirens. The sound of gunfire. Screams. A chase. And a voice right in front of her. Give me all your money. Yi Fei turned around, only to see 2 bulky men with daggers in their hands forcing a thin man into a corner of a wall. Give me all your money, or we'll poke a hole in you. Hurry up. The 2 of them spoke in a low voice. The thin man knelt on the ground and begged, Big brothers, please have mercy. Cut the crap. A burly man brandished his dagger and shouted. He raised his dagger and stabbed the thin man's body. Dang. A scarlet light flashed. The dagger in the man's hand was suddenly knocked away. This sudden change caused the 2 of them to involuntarily look in the direction of the scarlet light. A handsome young man was standing on the other side of the street. He was looking at the time on his watch. Superhuman? Scram. When I was playing with my abilities, you were still sucking on your mother's milk. Another man roared. He drew a dagger from his waist. Sparks began to swirl around the dagger. Flaming blade. When Yi Fei sensed the power of the flaming saber, she finally raised her head and looked at the 2. Superpower? There are even small fries? He looked a little surprised. At this moment, the thin man kneeling on the ground suddenly turned into a puddle of muddy water and seeped into the ground, disappearing in front of the 3 people. Yi Fei mumbled, Everyone is a transcendent? He held up a finger. The finger turned into a scarlet streak of light and shot forward. As soon as the man raised his dagger, He was cut into pieces by the streak of light. His companion was also beheaded on the spot when he was hit by the streak of light. I'm sorry, but when it comes to using abilities, you're still sucking on your mother's milk, Yi Fei Li said apologetically. He continued to look at his watch. The minute and hour hands didn't move, but the second hand moved forward by 1 tick and began to move. A line of gray text appeared. Frowny face. Based on your performance, you've entered the first minute. You've made a good start. Combined with your unique traits, the Clock of Sin has granted you the first supernatural ability, Clown Mask, Causality Law. When you wear this mask, anyone will treat you as their own. Duration: 1 minute. This ability can be used once per day for 10 minutes at a time. During the process of using this ability, you must kill at least one entity that treats you as their own in order to satisfy the mask's causality law. If you use this ability without killing any of your own charmed, the clown mask will take away 10 years of your lifespan. When you attack your own, the mask's effect will also disappear. Attention! The mask's appearance can be changed at will. Yi Fei Li quickly finished reading and muttered to herself. This is a bit unimaginable. It's like I've entered a hidden storyline in a game. If every minute on this clock was a causality level supernatural ability, then this watch, called the Clock of Sin, contained a total of 720 causality abilities. How unimaginable was that? However, this still needs to be proven further. At this point, the commotion outside was getting louder and louder, as if an intense battle was spreading in every direction. Yi Fei Li walked to the end of the alley and looked outside, only to see several people wearing police uniforms fleeing in panic. Behind them, 7 to 8 police cars had been completely destroyed. Corpse was thrown out of the bank. Captain of the Special Forces, a police officer exclaimed. The corpse was riddled with holes, having been shot countless times. He couldn't be more dead. A voice came from inside the bank. If you dare to attack again, we'll kill the rest of you. Get the hell away from me. Trash, all the money is ours. Unbridled laughter resounded from inside the bank. The police officers lowered their heads and quickly ran out of sight. Run, this is a private battle between the people above, we can't interfere. Yes, 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 we're only here to maintain law and order, between those VIPs. 2 police officers ran from the end of the alley and whispered to each other. Yi Fei Li leaned against the wall and silently listened. The situation seems to be quite complicated. He looked down at the watch called the Clock of Sin. The hour hand on the watch didn't move. The second hand had completed 1 full circle and stopped again. The minute hand moved forward 1 tick. The first minute. I need another 719 minutes to win against this Dreamscape Soul artifact. Listen up, you've been surrounded, put down your weapons, surrender is your only way out. The criminals looked out from inside the bank. In the chaotic square of the bank, the police cars had been flipped upside down. There was a lone person standing beside a police car that was still in good condition. He was the only living person in the entire square. He was holding a loudspeaker in his hand and loudly declared, I repeat, listen up, you've been surrounded, put down your weapons, surrender is your only way out. Surrounded? You're only one person, how dare you say you've surrounded us? The criminals couldn't help but look at him, only to see that he was of average height, wearing a mask on his face. His eyes were empty, his expression blank, his nose resembled a long bird's beak while his mouth carried a stiff smile. This was a clown mask with a sharp beak, as if he was trying to please someone, but at the same time, he didn't seem to be trying to please anyone at all, only showing an indescribable expression. All the criminals froze. We're on the same side, don't attack. We're on the same side, we're on the same side. Ahaha, he sure has a sense of humor, pretending to be a police officer. They hurriedly gestured to each other. The clown casually tossed the loudspeaker behind him and skipped into the bank. Did you go after those police officers? The leader of the criminals stared at the clown and smirked. Ah, that's right, those guys know that we have a big shot behind us, but they still dared to mess with us. How infuriating, the clown sighed. Ah ha ha ha, the criminals all laughed. The bulletproof glass of the bank's counter had been completely stripped off, turning the entire lobby into a flat surface. The corpses of the Special Forces members had dyed the wooden floor red. Most of the hostages had already been killed, leaving only a few women in tattered clothes sobbing in a corner. The clown kept looking around, silently memorizing the positions of all the criminals. Then, did you get rid of a few blind fellows? Someone asked loudly. The clown sobbed. Ah, sorry, I didn't kill them, but I can do it all over again, saying so sorrowfully. He grabbed a long hook from the void of space. The Forgetting River Soul flaying hook. The faint yellow light and blood-red glow intertwined, flashing across the lobby of the bank for a brief moment before disappearing. All the thugs were lying on the ground in disarray. The clown flew back to where he stood and landed. He looked at the frightened souls on the Forgetting River Soul separating hook and felt a bit pleased. The clown spoke with a hint of mad joy. Then, I'll send you to reincarnate when you grow up again. You can come find me. I promise I'll do better next time. When the clown was about to use the Forgetting River Soul separating hook's power to completely banish these souls, a voice called out to him. Have mercy! A deep male voice called out. A faint figure flew out from the leader of the criminals. The figure turned into a clear human figure. It was a well-dressed, middle-aged man. I don't know who you are, but I want you to know that they're my people, the middle-aged man said. And who are you? The clown curiously asked. The middle-aged man appeared a bit surprised, but quickly regained his calm. Even I don't know, seems like this was an accident. Very well, I'll tell you, I'm the chief judge of this city of sin. The clown was now truly curious. He swung his hook and pointed at the corpses of the criminals, asking, Your Excellency, the chief judge, your way of enforcing the law is truly unique, the middle-aged man replied. This city is filled with filthy transactions and sinful acts, sometimes even tolerated by the city's upper echelons. And I, as the representative of the justice of the law, will not allow these bastards who ride roughshod over the people to have it easy, the clown asked. That's why this operation was carried out. The middle-aged man smiled and replied, Indeed, they're actually upholding justice, so please forgive them, consider it as giving me some face. The clown looked at the corpses of the Special Forces, then pointed at the hostages' corpses with his hook, and asked with a confused tone, You call this upholding justice? The middle-aged man replied, For a better tomorrow, some people will have to be sacrificed. The clown slowly raised the Forgetting River Soul separating hook. Boom! The hook shook. The dim yellow light broke through this world, revealing a vast and boundless river. The souls of dozens of criminals were sucked in by the river and fell directly into the river. They were swept up by the river and rushed in the direction of hell. The light faded. All the supernatural phenomena disappeared. Very well, you're trying to offend me, going against the only justice in this city. The middle-aged man spoke with a grim expression. The clown walked in front of the middle-aged man, wiped the hook on the criminal leader's corpse, looked at it lovingly, then slowly put it away. I'm sorry, Sir Judge, even if you're upholding some sort of justice, I won't give you any face, the clown spoke apologetically. Because I represent evil, only killing makes me happy. As soon as he said so, the watch in his hand lightly moved. The second and minute hands began to quickly move. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 1276. I represent the law of this city, the highest authority of the Supreme Court, clown. I don't care who's hiding behind your mask. I guarantee that you'll regret this. After saying so, the middle-aged man's figure slowly faded away. He vanished from the corpse. The clown didn't seem to notice him at all, only humming a song as he walked to a corner of the bank. There was a map of the city there. Clang, 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 found it. The clown dipped his hand into the blood on the ground and lightly drew a line at the corner of the map. That was the address of the City of Sin's Supreme Court. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. Although this isn't my personal debt, I still need to work hard right now, the clown muttered to himself, then looked at the clock of sin. Another 7 minutes had passed. A line of gray text appeared in the void of space. Frowny face, according to your performance, you've entered the 8th minute. You can choose to exchange for 7 different supernatural abilities, all of which are of the same level as the clown's mask. You can also choose to exchange for these 7 minutes at once to obtain a stronger ability. Please choose. The clown pondered for a bit. In this world, the strongest person is 3 times stronger than me, and I only have 12 hours. I'm not Jang Young-ho. A person like Jang Young-ho is capable of using every single item and power to their fullest in order to kill his enemies. That's how hitmen do things. While my own fighting style is more suitable for solving problems in a way that others can't predict. With that in mind, the clown made a clear choice. I choose to exchange for 7 minutes at once to obtain a stronger ability, he silently told the clock of sin in his mind. As he made his choice, new lines of gray text appeared. Frowny face, combined with your unique traits, the clock of sin has granted you a second supernatural ability, a beautiful echo full of artistic feeling. Nighttime. On the clock tower across from the Supreme Court. The clown stood still. In the corner behind him, a few beautiful women were sitting there, slowly eating and drinking. You don't need to follow me, the clown said without turning around. A woman said, there's nothing we can do. We've already been embroiled in a dispute between a few big shots. There's no way we can escape. Another woman replied, I'm just an ordinary bank employee. I should have died just now, but I didn't expect to witness the crimes of the VIPs. If I leave you, I'll be found and silenced very quickly. The clown said nothing. He just stared at the magnificent building in the night. The girls exchanged glances. A beautiful woman timidly said, Sir, why don't you take us far away? With your power, you can definitely escape the jurisdiction of the arbitration court and start a new life. Escape? The clown repeated. He came back to his senses, cleared his throat, and said, Do any of you know what the arbitration court does? You don't even know this? A woman asked in surprise. May I have the honor of listening to your lecture? The clown made a gesture of invitation. For some reason, seeing the clown's attitude, the woman felt an unprecedented feeling. She took a deep breath and said, The Court of Arbitration, the Parliament, and the military are the 3 most powerful forces in this city. They stand above the civilians. In this era where the apocalypse is constantly descending, they have the power to decide life and death, often fighting each other, never caring about the life and death of us ordinary people. The clown's baton stopped in his hand. I can see that you all have some supernatural abilities. Why don't you join one of these 3 forces? The girls smiled bitterly. My ability is only that my calculation speed is very fast. It's not enough to meet their requirements in combat. My supernatural ability is that I'm soft as if I don't have any bones, but I'm afraid of blood, so I don't fit their standards. The girls all spoke at once, then quickly changed the topic. Sir, you've offended a VIP of the arbitration court. Please take us with you and escape. Don't worry, we'll listen to everything you say, as long as you take us with you to survive. Listening to them, the clown silently stared at the girls. From their eyes, he could see their survival instincts. The clown cleared his throat and asked, The enemy is too powerful? The girls nodded. The clown clapped his hands and joyfully said, That's great, I have a brother who taught me how to deal with such a situation. How to deal with it? One of the girls gathered her courage and asked. The clown replied, When facing an enemy stronger than you, you just need to make sure that they don't have the chance to attack. The clown took out a baton, lightly tapped it on the stone floor, then began to ramble. This scene reminds me of a few lines. Please allow me to pay homage to my past experiences. There are too many people in this world who don't wear masks, but use other methods to conceal themselves, while I wear this mask in order to open up my soul and reveal my true self. In this sinful city, I shall make my own voice known, and that is The clown pointed his baton at the arbitration court. Boom! Black smoke and flames erupted all over the place. The intense explosion resounded deafeningly. The ground trembled. The wind howled. All sins in this world should be punished. This is the law of causality, as well as my own echo, a beautiful echo of art. Ah ha 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 ha! The clown laughed maniacally. The watch on his wrist began to spin. The grand and majestic arbitration court collapsed, reduced to nothing. A figure staggered out from the rubble, about to escape, but was caught by the clown through space and brought back to the clock tower. Bam! The figure was thrown down from the sky, desperately struggling on the ground. The clown landed, held his face in his hands and whispered, "Sir Grand Judge, from this moment onwards, I believe that you can step down from your duties and go to Huang Quan to relax." The man on the ground was bleeding from his head, having lost an arm in the explosion, breathing heavily. Let me go, I am. He's my man," a solemn male voice resounded from the sky. The clown looked up, only to see an old man with a long white beard, wearing a suit of formal attire, standing in the air with a solemn expression. "Who are you?" the clown asked without revealing his emotions. 3 times. "This old man is 3 times stronger than me." The clown quickly evaluated the situation of the battle. The old man looked down and casually spoke. "I am the manager of this place, a subordinate of the awaitings, and you're trying to kill my son." The clown stood up and clapped his hands. A hook appeared from the void of space and landed on the Grand Judge's neck. "Speak clearly," the clown said. The old man showed a mocking smirk and said, "You still don't understand? Your trial was conducted in my territory, and now you dare to touch my son. Have you thought about the consequences of this? Let go of my son, then be obedient and do what you have to do. Remember, this isn't a place for you to act presumptuously." The clown didn't move. The old man scowled and was about to say something else. The clown suddenly jumped up, stood on the Grand Judge's left, and shouted, "Sorry, the person you want to kill is my mount." "Ah no, you still want to kill him? Fine, he's my disciple." "Ah no, you still insist on killing him? I'll tell you the truth, he's my adopted son." After saying that, he jumped to the Grand Judge's right, made a surprised and fearful expression, and said in a cowering voice, "So you're on the same side, it was all a misunderstanding. All right, take him away, farewell, farewell." After that, the clown crouched down again in front of the Grand Judge and held his hook. "Look," the clown chuckled. He swung his hook. He cut off the Grand Judge's head and raised it in his hand. "Ah ha 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 ha! Do you think I'm going to let your son go?" The clown laughed in a high-pitched voice. "That kind of ending is too boring, so I'll give you an even darker ending." The clown showed off his head to the Grand Judge in the air, and couldn't help but laugh. "Ah ha 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 ha! Surprised? Surprised?" Following that, the minute and second hands of the clock of sin began to move. Calm. Wonderful book house calm. Chapter 1277. The Forest World. Guqing Shan held the dark green bough in her hand. Lines of glowing text appeared from the void of space. "Frowny face, you've obtained the bough of fallen souls. This dreamscape soul artifact is powerful, but requires a corresponding level of strength to wield it with your current level of strength. When you wield this bough, you will obtain the following supernatural powers. Power of Wither. All beings struck by your arrows will rapidly age, decay, and be destroyed at any moment. Root of Corrosion. All beings struck by your arrows will quickly corrode. Unable to be saved, unless the corroded part is cut off. Attention. Only when your personal strength increases again will you be able to exert more of this dreamscape soul artifact's power." In the next second, a figure leaped up from the longbow. Lady Fusey. She swung her scepter to release several hundred illusory images. The light and shadows were filled with all kinds of dangerous battle scenes. In this world, Guqing Shan had gone through numerous trials, triumphed over countless powerful foes, and finally obtained this dreamscape soul artifact, the Bough of Fallen Souls. We've used many techniques to weave the entire process of your trials, which should be able to fool the enemy's detection. As long as your opponent doesn't perform excessively well, you should be able to win the favor of chaos. Recalling something, Lady Fusey added, "Don't worry, I've also used a small trick to guide your opponent onto a wrong path. What will it do?" Gu Qingshan asked. "It will most likely choose an incomplete statue, and the corresponding awaiting of that statue has already disappeared," Lady Fusey replied. "That sounds quite pitiful," Gu Qingshan commented. He suddenly went silent. "What is it?" Lady Fusey asked. "Let me confirm something again. In the past, the awaitings of both the Order and Chaos factions didn't want both sides to suffer, so they created Order and Chaos, exhausted all of their power and fell into slumber. Is that correct?" Gu Qingshan asked. "Indeed," Lady Fusey replied. Gu Qingshan's eyes flickered as she slowly said, "Madam, in the Little Chaos faction, there are some awaiting whose strength is on par with yours, is that right?" Lady Fusey replied, "Of course, there is an awaiting who possesses similar traits and abilities as me." Gu Qingshan looked down at the dark green bow in her hand and silently muttered in her mind, "War God UI, inspect this bow, please display all of its properties." Lines of glowing text quickly appeared on the War God UI, showing the item's information from before. "There's no problem, that's strange," Gu Qingshan muttered. He always felt that something was wrong. It was like walking through a quiet and uninhabited valley, yet feeling that countless people were lurking in the dark and trying to do something. This had nothing to do with his spiritual sense. It was purely a warrior, or rather, a commander on the battlefield, who sensed something on the battlefield. It was too smooth. Would a war that had lasted for a long time come to an end so smoothly? Admittedly, this was the wish of everyone. However, a calm warrior would never ignore the undercurrents hidden beneath the calm surface just because of the desire in the depths of his heart. There was no such thing as such a simple matter in this world. Even if a single person wanted to change their own fate, they would have to go through countless hardships, let alone this war that involved the fate of countless living beings, the awaiting, as well as the apocalypse itself. For such a matter, smooth could only mean one thing. Something had been overlooked. Gu Qingshan's mind was a bit uncertain, but his expression slowly turned solemn. Noticing the change in his expression, Lady Fusey asked, "Gu Qingshan, this is a crucial moment for Order to seek a chance to survive, so why do I see hesitation on your face?" Gu Qingshan replied, "It's nothing, I'm merely thinking from another perspective. Lady Fusey, have there been any setbacks in your schemes up to this point? Or were you almost discovered by the enemy?" Lady Fusey thought briefly, then replied, "No." She then realized, her expression turning solemn. "Do you think that there's a trap here?" Gu Qingshan replied, "I don't have any proof, I simply feel that we should be cautious. Because both sides are roughly equal in strength, which means, if you were able to do something to the Wu Chaos faction, the enemy would also be able to do the same to the Order faction." Lady Fusey scowled. She swung her scepter and lightly tapped Gu Qingshan's body. Countless faint lights manifested from Gu Qingshan's body and manifested into a sheepskin scroll. "There are no issues, every secret protector has selflessly offered their power to ensure that your identity would not be discovered," she said. Gu Qingshan pondered. "I want to know, within the Chaos faction, what kind of power does the one with a similar trait and ability as you possess?" Lady Fusey replied. "He is the prophet of the Chaos. Just like me, he is able to travel through time and space to see certain things that will happen in the future. In other words, that awaiting might have been able to witness our meeting," Gu Qingshan commented. "No, he would not touch any fragment of spacetime that I used my technique to conceal. Doing so would consume too much power, forcing him to fall back into slumber. Furthermore, we are both wary of each other," Lady Fusey replied. Gu Qingshan immediately asked, "Then, at the same time, did you also see the fragment of spacetime that he used his technique to conceal?" Lady Fusey replied. If I tried my best, I could, but after that, I would fall into slumber due to exhausting all of my power. Gu Qingshan continued. Please investigate and see if there were any moments that he had concealed within the timeline that you and him are related to. Lady Fusey stared deeply at Gu Qingshan, then said, Earth God, your cautiousness has left a deep impression on me. Every single move in war requires extreme caution, otherwise trillions of living beings would die. Gu Qingshan replied. But the river of time is too long. Even if I expend all of my power, I would not be able to observe every single scene related to him, Lady Fusey replied. She raised her hand and raised 3 fingers. I can only choose 3 points of time to observe if he had done anything. Furthermore, after that, I would fall into slumber just like the other awaiting, unable to help you for the time being. We must accurately guess the point of time that he had done something, otherwise, you would have to face an unknown trap by yourself, and we would not be able to help you. Gu Qingshan fell silent. This was a gamble with little hope. He pondered. If we correctly guess the moment that he had done something at the very first point, would you still have enough power to fight alongside me? Indeed, investigating the second point of time would exhaust my power, and investigating the third point of time would require me to pay the price, Lady Fusey replied. Gu Qingshan muttered in a low voice. If you cannot participate in this battle, our chances of victory would be greatly reduced. In other words, we must correctly guess what he had done at the very first time. He fell into deep thought. If an unknown enemy had set up an unknown trap at an unknown time, when would that be? What exactly did he do? Time is too long, so how would we be able to determine the exact time? There is only a single chance, there is no room for error, so how would we be able to guess the truth? Perhaps anyone would feel powerless in the face of such a problem. This is basically an impossible calculation. Lady Fusey had also thought of this and sighed. You've made reasonable assumptions about both our enemy's power and strategy, but I've carefully lurked for so many years, constantly observing the abnormalities of the space-time around me, afraid that he might have arranged something, but I've never found anything, which is why you've always been on guard against him? Gu Qingshan asked. Indeed. After all, he and I both have similar abilities, so I naturally have to be on guard against him discovering my actions, Lady Fusey replied. You've never noticed anything out of the ordinary. Then, we can first assume one thing. If he had arranged something, he would definitely not want you to discover it, so… Gu Qingshan paused briefly, then concluded. He had already arranged everything before you went into hiding. Lady Fusey shook her head. Before I went into hiding, there was a period of over 100 million years, but I still couldn't determine the exact moment that he had done it, nor could I know what he had done. Do you know him well? Gu Qingshan asked again. No, I've fought against him once, so I only know that he has similar abilities as I do, but I don't know much about him, Lady Fusey replied. That's too difficult. There's no way to find an answer. She silently thought. Gu Qingshan muttered, You're both wary of each other. If I were him, I would also carefully avoid you before considering how to act. You avoided each other. What he wants to do must be related to this apotheotic combat. After all, this is a crucial moment that will decide whether or not the era of chaos would fully descend, as well as whether or not order would be completely destroyed. Because of that, countless years ago, he would have made some preparations at a moment when you wouldn't be able to sense it, Lady Fusey continued. There are too many things that he could have done. This is the same as scheming against an unsuspecting person. I have no way to guess what he would have done. Gu Qingshan shook her head. For this matter, if we exclude all of your actions, the things that he could have done are actually traceable, from the outcome, to ensure that the era of chaos would fully descend. The victor of the apotheotic combat must be the true heir of chaos, and not someone like me who attempted to kill the true deity of chaos, if we want to put an end to this. Unless… Lady Fusey felt herself becoming tense and couldn't help but ask, unless what? Unless, countless years ago, this matter could have been confirmed, Gu Qingshan replied. Lady Fusey replied, but there are simply too many variables in the endless passage of time. There is simply no way to be certain that a certain event that happened billions of years later would have started, progressed, and ended according to one's own will. Not even us awaitings could achieve such a feat. No, Gu Qingshan uttered a single word. His mind quickly turned, quickly considering the other party's method to break out of this predicament. The true deity of chaos is supported by the entire era, so she would never die. Only by initiating the apotheotic combat would she be able to seize the deity seat and kill the true deity, and the prerequisite for initiating the apotheotic combat is to sacrifice an order to the era of chaos. Lady Fusey, are there any issues with this? Lady Fusey replied, there are no issues. That is indeed the case, Gu Qingshan continued. If that is the case, then there are a few places where the other party could have tampered with. The first is to tamper with the personnel participating in the apotheotic combat. I trust my companions on this because I know them very well. Furthermore, even if the other party had tampered with them, my power is more than enough to deal with my companions. Lady Fusey nodded. I've looked through your companions, there are no issues. Gu Qingshan stayed silent for a bit, then continued. Then, there is one other thing that the other party could have arranged in advance over billions of years ago. What is it? Order, the order. That I sacrificed. Gu Qingshan recalled the scene when she sacrificed the Demon King order. From start to finish, this order didn't express anything, nor did it respond. With the cunning of this order, it shouldn't have acted this way. Gu Qingshan recalled many times in her mind and confirmed. This is the only place where the other party could have turned the tables, as well as the only method that could have been arranged over billions of years ago. This method would determine the final direction of the apotheotic combat, just like how you, Lady Fusey, infiltrated the chaotic Bronze Palace and secretly altered the test of the apotheotic combat. Your old foe had done the same thing. Gu Qingshan took a deep breath and concluded. I believe that he had already tampered with World's Apocalypse Online, Demon King Order, over billions of years ago. Lady Fusey looked at him, and couldn't help but feel a sense of respect. This was the first time she had felt respect for an existence that was several hundred times weaker than herself, and it came from the bottom of her heart. She continued, according to your deduction, we would need to return to the moment when the Demon King Order was created, because after the order was created, no one could have tampered with it. This is the only answer I can think of, Gu Qingshan replied. Let us go. Lady Fusey swung her scepter and broke through the void of space. The two of them entered the void of space and hovered in the air. Below them was a vast, glowing river. Lady Fusey solemnly said, we will now be going against the flow, back to billions of years ago, back to the moment when World's Apocalypse Online, a Demon King Order, was created. Gu Qingshan, do not let go of my hand, otherwise, you will be killed by the law of time due to going too far back in time. I understand, Lady Fusey. Come. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 1278. The River of Time. Resplendent and eternal. Countless generations of history, trillions of living beings, all of them spent their own time within the river of time, eventually fading away. Fusey held Gu Qingshan's hand as they traveled against the flow of the river of time. To return to that moment 10 trillion years ago, the distance needed to travel was so long that Gu Qingshan had a lot of time to think about it. At a certain point, Lady Fusey, what exactly will happen when the Demon King Order evolves to the very end? Gu Qingshan asked. Haven't you already experienced such a moment? Fusey answered while traveling through the flow of time. Gu Qingshan doubtfully replied, indeed, the Demon King Order wants to borrow my soul points to summon the Demon King. What exactly is this thing called the Demon King? Fusey replied, the Demon King Order will use your soul points as a catalyst to fuse the prayers it had gathered over the course of 10 trillion years into one, creating a unique entity. Create? Gu Qingshan asked. Indeed, this is a peerless technique of creation that was created by gathering the power of our order, faction. Fusey sighed emotionally. That created entity will attach itself to the summoner, ignoring the restraints of causality and all laws to change everything. Gu Qingshan was stunned and couldn't help but ask, if we have such power, why would we need to worry about not being able to deal with the chaos faction? Why would we be afraid of the apocalypse? This is indeed one of the most powerful weapons that our order faction has ever created, regretfully. Fusey sighed and continued, it has an irreparable shortcoming. We had calculated at the time, if the Demon King Order were to go through 10 trillion years and collect the prayers of all carriers during this period of time, it would only be able to allow an entity like the Demon King to descend for 10 seconds at most 10 seconds. No matter how powerful this power was, it would only exist for a very short amount of time. And the apocalypse outside the reality gate was endless. Using 10 seconds against endless would only result in failure. Gu Qingshan carefully thought about it and understood. The Wu Chaos faction also desired this power, so the enemy whose power was close to Fusey's had silently tampered with the Demon King Order. This would cause the era of the chaos to fully descend after 10 trillion years, and the power of the Order faction would be completely eliminated. At this moment, Fusey suddenly waved her staff and softly chanted an incantation. Time, you are my close friend. Please raise your radiance and cover our tracks. A stream of time flew over and turned into a thin white thread that revolved around the two of them. Be careful, we're almost there, Fusey said. Gu Qingshan became spirited and replied, understood. Fusey wielded her staff in one hand and held his hand with the other as they headed in a certain direction within the river of time. She raised her staff and thrust it forward. The dazzling river parted to the sides. The flickering light and shadows gradually became clear in front of the two. In a secret chamber. Within the secret chamber, there were many beings in black cloaks walking around the several meters tall black flames. These people's faces were covered, and their faces could not be seen clearly. Only their mouths could be heard chanting all kinds of incantations. As they chanted the incantation, the black flames gradually became more and more dazzling. At some point, these people stopped in their tracks. The chanting also stopped. A voice resounded from one of the cloaks. I've given it 1,963 combat skills, another voice resounded. I've added 990,000 pieces of equipment and their combination forging techniques. I've given it the triggering rules for evolution, as well as a new power selection method. In terms of summoning spells, I've given you 7,491 types. The Dreamscape Soul artifact for collecting prayers has been prepared. These people continued to speak. Fusey and Gu Qingshan stood in a corner and silently watched this. Not too long after, Gu Qingshan understood. Over 10 trillion years ago, these powerful entities were racking their brains to think of a way to fight against the apocalypse. These pioneers they created, order. This was the process of the world's apocalypse online Demon King Order's creation. I didn't think I'd travel through 10 trillion years to witness the creation of order with my own eyes. An indescribable feeling welled up in Gu Qingshan's mind. Can't they see us? Gu Qingshan asked in a low voice. Fusey replied, naturally, there are some who understand space-time techniques that can discover us. Look. An entity wearing a black cloak slowly turned around and walked in front of the two of them. A familiar whisper resounded. Successor of time, who exactly are you? At this point, they were close enough that Gu Qingshan could clearly see her appearance. Fusey. The young girl had a face that carried a bit of immaturity, but also contained unparalleled power and dignity. Gu Qingshan looked at her, then at Fusey who was holding her hand, feeling extremely surprised. No need to be surprised, the law of time will erase two identical entities from the same timeline, because this will cause space-time to fall into chaos and collapse, while I can calm the chaos of space-time, so I can see myself." After saying so, Fusey took a hairpin from her hair, chanted an incantation, and gave it to her other self. The young Fusey received it, glanced at it briefly, then returned it. "Is it really me from 10 trillion years in the future? Is there something you want to tell the current me?" she asked. "I can't say, but I need your support to investigate a few things." Fusey shook her head. The young Fusey nodded and sighed. "It seems the situation is quite grim." She clasped her hands and softly chanted, "May the great power of the river of time pour down like a waterfall, filling your heart and soul." The white threads around Fusey and Gu Qingshan's bodies abruptly expanded, turning into a milky white barrier of light that enveloped the two of them. Another dazzling cluster of light flew into Fusey's hand from the young Fusey's hand, and was tightly grasped by her. "This is my most powerful investigative technique," the young Fusey said. "I naturally know," Lady Fusey replied. Gu Qingshan was so shocked that she couldn't say anything. "You want me to help you?" Fusey glanced at him, saw that his gaze was fixated on her young self, then seemed to have misunderstood something and explained. "The more power of time I store, the younger my appearance will become, and vice versa, the older I will become." As she said so, the young Fusey turned around and returned to the group of awaitings. She then said something to the others. Several awaitings turned to look at this corner, but as soon as they heard what she said, they turned their gazes away. "These people are all on the secret scroll used to protect your identity, so they should be fine," Fusey replied. Gu Qingshan also added, "Furthermore, you are currently at the scene of the creation of order, so your opponent won't dare to come here for now." "That's right, we need to wait a bit," Fusey replied. The two of them silently stood in the corner, listening to their conversation. A long while later, a resounding voice resounded from outside. "You bastards from the Order faction, come out and die!" Gu Qingshan turned to Lady Fusey. "Ah, I remember now, when the Demon King Order was completed, the Chaos faction once came to challenge us." Lady Fusey appeared nostalgic and continued, "At the time we thought that they were jealous of the power of the Demon King that we created. Although it was only 10 seconds, it had already surpassed their imaginations." As she spoke, the awaitings of the Order faction left the secret room in groups of 2 or 3. With the Chaos faction attacking, they had no choice but to go out and face them. The young Fusey followed her friends to a corner of the secret room, and looked at where the two of them were. "You don't need me to do anything?" the young Fusey asked. "No need, you can leave. Don't interfere with the 10 trillion years of history," Fusey replied. The young Fusey nodded, and was about to leave with her friends. "Humph!" Suddenly, a cold scoff resounded. Among her friends, another entity whose face was hidden under a black cloak stepped forward. He walked in front of Gu Qingshan. "Brat, the dragons you killed 10 trillion years later were all trash that deserved to be killed, so I won't say anything, but how could you use the power of the dragon race like that? What a disgrace! Running your mouth is shameful, do you understand?" He kept on lecturing Gu Qingshan, seemingly angry. Gu Qingshan looked at this awaiting. He had a pair of golden vertical pupils. His face was covered in scales that were naturally engraved with mystical runes. This person's presence was completely different from the others around him. He was stronger. "Your Grace, please calm your anger, because at this juncture of life and death, I can only use whatever power I have." Gu Qingshan had no choice but to say this. The person coldly stared at Gu Qingshan, then suddenly reached his finger through the milky white screen of light and tapped his forehead. "Remember, this is the true power of the dragon race." After saying so, he turned around and left. The young Fusey looked at this person's back, then at Gu Qingshan. "It's fine, he is the myriad dragon ancestor. He must have given you some sort of help. There's no need to worry," she lightly said. Lady Fusey urged them. "All right, don't stay here any longer, hurry up and leave, otherwise, if the history of 10 trillion years is altered, it will bring about unpredictable consequences." The young Fusey exchanged glances with her companions, nodded, and left. The awaitings left one by one, leaving only the blazing black flame silently in place. The secret room quickly returned to silence. Only Fusey and Gu Qingshan silently stood in a corner. If you've guessed correctly, that event will most likely happen very soon, Lady Fusey said. I don't know either, but this is the only place where the other party could have done something, and they've also used quite a few people to draw everyone away from the secret room. I'm guessing that event will happen very soon, Gu Qingshan replied. While saying so, he turned his gaze towards the void of space. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared. Frowny face, you've received the Myriad Dragon Ancestors' teachings. Your Azure Dragon Shadow Hex binding is evolving. Azure Dragon Origin Hex is manifesting. You will soon obtain the true power of the dragon race. Gu Qingshan didn't have time to read any further. He could feel Fusey's hand suddenly tightening around him. I am the undying sand of time. I call upon the deepest power of time, all of time. You are my closest friends. Please dispel the illusions that once existed, as well as the illusions that never existed. Reveal to me the truth and secrets hidden within the depths of time. Fusey quickly chanted in a low voice, then crushed the brilliant cluster of light in her other hand. Gu Qingshan abruptly looked up. The world in front of their eyes faded away. Nothingness. After the nothingness, the entire world abruptly reappeared. Nothing had changed, nor did anything out of the ordinary. Let us see the results, Lady Fusey said. The two of them silently stood there. Gu Qingshan was no longer in the mood to look at the notifications regarding the power of the dragon race. Because this was the most crucial moment. 1 breath, 2 breath, 3 breath. Time slowly became endless. Still, nothing happened. After a while, even Gu Qingshan's own confidence began to waver. Lady Fusey sighed and was about to say something. All of a sudden, an illusory figure descended from above and silently landed in the secret room. The figure circled around the several feet tall black flame and muttered, "So this is the Demon King order? I didn't think they would be able to create such an order." Gu Qingshan and Lady Fusey exchanged glances. The enemy really did come. It turns out that the entity from the Chaos faction from 10 trillion years ago had indeed tampered with the Demon King order at this very moment. Chapter 1279. Gu Qingshan and Lady Fusey instinctively held their breath. The two of them silently stared at the figure. "It's him," Lady Fusey said. Gu Qingshan nodded. The figure circled around the black flame and said, "Master, you're a heavenly demon. Exactly as described in the intelligence, such a powerful order is like a flower blooming in the wind. Although it can bloom in the eternal night of the apocalypse, it won't be able to win against the apocalypse in just 10 seconds. I can only..." His tone became filled with killing intent. "At a certain point in the future, to prevent the era of chaos from fully descending, I will definitely change that future." At this point, the sounds of battle could be heard from outside. The awaitings of two factions were clashing. The figure listened carefully, then took out a small brown bag from his chest. "Time is limited. Fortunately, we've done everything we could and made such preparations." While saying so, he opened the small bag and tossed a cluster of dark golden sand into the black flame. Boom! The black flame abruptly rose up, forming a faint humanoid silhouette. It spoke with a confused voice. "Who is giving me another type of power?" After being mixed with the dark golden sand, the humanoid silhouette formed by the flame became increasingly unstable. Numerous unique materials and substances were tossed out from its body, hovering in the air while giving off a dazzling glow. The figure quickly chanted, "I shall bestow upon you the personality of a human. From now on, you shall possess false words, a cold and cowardly personality, and a cruel and merciless mindset, all the way until the moment you are sacrificed. You shall embrace the era of chaos, becoming the final power of the era's descent. From now on, you shall accept a brand new self, a brand new mission." The flame abruptly trembled, then completely retracted, causing the humanoid silhouette to also stabilize. The humanoid silhouette replied. The figure reminded him. To keep in mind, you must fight against chaos. If you can't, then run away from it until one day you are brought to a place called the Spire World and then… the humanoid silhouette asked. Embrace the era of chaos, it will sense the presence I left on you, so it won't devour you for now, the man continued. Once the apotheotic combat is over, the harbinger of the apocalypse will appear. You must release all of your prayers and infuse them into her. The power of will that you've collected for billions of years will be too much for her to bear, and she will have no choice but to call us. We will come here to devour the prayers, recover to our peak state, and awaken once more. Got it, the human figure said. Gu Qingshan's eyes narrowed. So that was how it was. It turned out that Yi Ru she was tasked with such an important mission. She would act as a transfer point for the chaos awaitings to infuse billions of years' worth of prayers into them. No wonder the Chaos Era valued her so much and wanted to protect her at all costs. Demon King Order, Era of Chaos, Path of Apotheosis, Chaotic Bronze Palace. Everything had already been arranged. Once the apotheotic combat ended and Yi Ru she was brought back to the world of the Spire, it would immediately be activated. At that time, not only would the complete era of chaos descend, but even the awaitings of the chaos faction would also be awakened. Regardless of who it was that became the true deity of chaos, against the awaitings that created chaos, they would have no way of resisting. The chaos faction would then win this war that had lasted for billions of years. They would destroy all worlds and all living beings, turning all existences into barren wastelands, until the apocalypse would also come to an end. These awaitings, Gu Qingshan clenched her fists tightly, trying her best to control her killing intent. After the man finished explaining, he nodded in satisfaction. His gaze fell onto the void of space, staring at the precious treasures that had been tossed out from the Order. These were all Dreamscape soul artifacts, treasures that came from the awaitings. I can't bring these core, Order, soul artifacts out, otherwise the other party would definitely notice, he muttered, then took out a rectangular box. The various treasures that had flown out were stored inside, sealed with several dozen secret techniques, no longer able to be sensed. The man silently listened to the commotion outside, then spoke with a mocking tone. We've spent a lot of time and prepared a total of 3,000 concealment techniques. I refuse to believe that you'll still be able to find it. He casually walked to a corner of the room, crouched down, and placed the rectangular box on the ground. The rectangular box quickly turned transparent, slowly sank into the ground, and was no longer visible. Gentlemen of the Order faction, you would come here every day to establish order, but you would never know that everything you've done had already become a stepping stone for chaos. This is my silent disdain. It will accompany you every single day, until the day the era of chaos descends. Saying so, the man smirked triumphantly, then slowly stepped into the void of space and disappeared from the secret room. One breath's worth of time later. Did he leave? Gu Qingshan asked. Yes, Lady Fusey replied. She flew out, placed her hand on the ground, and chanted an incantation. She took the rectangular box out from the ground. Gu Qingshan watched this and commented. He replaced the Demon King Order's core. No wonder there were so many problems after that. Indeed, with these cores, we still have hope. Lady Fusey's eyes were filled with hope. She carefully held the rectangular box in her hand. That person probably couldn't have imagined that the entire process of him tampering with it had already been discovered by two people who came from 10 trillion years in the future. Lady Fusey opened the rectangular box and stared at the treasures inside. When you sacrificed the Demon King Order, it had already received the prayers of countless living beings, but because it was waiting for the era of chaos to descend, it had remained dormant, Lady Fusey said. I also felt that it was strange, because it appeared to be very afraid. Even though it had already evolved to its peak, Gu Qingshan commented. Lady Fusey replied. It was waiting to be brought back to the world of the spire, waiting for the apotheotic combat path to end. Lady Fusey, do you have a solution? Gu Qingshan asked. Lady Fusey shook her head. Even though the Demon King order had been altered, it was still related to many things that had happened over 10 trillion years in the past. Once we try to alter it, the history of the past 10 trillion years would also be altered. We would also be affected by this chaotic flow of causality and be killed. Gu Qingshan thought briefly, then said, we can avoid touching anything that happened over the past 10 trillion years, only changing it at the very last moment. You mean? Indeed, that person had foreseen that the Demon King order would end the era of chaos. So we'll make this a reality. Lady Fusey stared at him and said. Continue. Gu Qingshan continued. Can we use these core components to also tamper with the Demon King order? Allowing everything to continue as normal, but abruptly change everything right after the apotheotic combat path ends. He made a slashing gesture and continued. Just like an assassin, a critical strike at the most crucial moment, Lady Fusey muttered. Let me think about it. She fell into thought. A few moments later, she picked out a few Dreamscape soul artifacts from the rectangular box and tossed them into the black flames. She chanted a series of mystical incantations, only stopping after a few dozen seconds. With my abilities, I cannot change this order. That person only managed to change the order that we created by bringing everything that the carriers of chaos had prepared. But there's an old saying, it's easy to destroy, but hard to create. That's why I have a way to destroy their calculations. Following her words, her long hair slowly turned white, her beautiful face slowly aged. Even if it was only a very minor change to the order, even if she was in a waiting, she still had to expend a lot of effort. Gu Qingshan supported her. I'm done. Lady Fusey tiredly wiped the sweat off her forehead, then handed a Dreamscape soul artifact to Gu Qingshan. As Gu Qingshan received it, she found that it was a card. A snow-white unicorn was drawn on the card. On the unicorn's neck hung a jade-green flute. A line of glowing text appeared on the War God UI Frowny Face unique card. Demon King Ascension Master Attachment. Chapter 1280. With Gu Qingshan's support, Lady Fusey leaned against the wall and slowly laid down. Time is an eternal mystery, Gu Qingshan, she breathed heavily. Gu Qingshan nodded and replied, I've never been able to understand the true meaning of time, because it is fickle. Lady Fusey continued. I fully believe that the Chaos faction must have expended an immense amount of power to find our only flaw within the river of time. Furthermore what? Gu Qingshan pursued the question. Lady Fusey's expression appeared a bit heavy as she slowly explained. We had arranged countless spells and powers within the secret room where order was created to protect this place, but they were able to easily enter. I suspect that they had used the power of the law of fate. Furthermore, the dark golden sand that the Chaos faction took out to alter order. Even I have never heard of such a thing before. It must have been a treasure that they had spent countless efforts to create. Gu Qingshan slowly sensed that something wasn't right. As she carefully thought about it, she even felt her back becoming numb. Lady Fusey, what are you worried about? He directly asked. Lady Fusey replied. The battle between order and chaos had reached its most crucial moment during the era of the Spire's destruction. I'm worried that my old foe would continue to observe that era, preparing to prevent any unexpected incidents from occurring, or perhaps even alter the outcome. Didn't all the awaitings fall into slumber? Gu Qingshan asked. Both he and I, due to the power of time, were able to slowly recover over 10 trillion years. So I'm worried that he might have something up his sleeves, Lady Fusey replied. She struggled to sit up and said, You can't underestimate them. We must immediately return to the era of the Spire's destruction and confirm the final outcome. Gu Qingshan went silent for a brief moment. Could it be there might be other variables involved? He asked. It's hard to say. Anything that hasn't happened will always have its own variables, especially when it concerns the fate of trillions of worlds like this, although before I left, I had created an illusion of you traveling through time, so chaos shouldn't be able to notice. Fusey sighed weakly, then continued. However, when we returned to the past, at the point of time before we returned, time continued to move forward, I understand, so we have to go back now. Gu Qingshan urged. Fusey shook her head and spoke in a low voice. The majority of my power has been used to modify order. It is no longer enough for both of us to return at the same time. As an awaiting, I cannot carry order and chaos. So you are the only one left. She looked at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan's heart sank. Lady Fusey traveled through countless years of time, then expended her power to alter order. So she had used up all of her power. She had done all she could. Now, Gu Qingshan looked at the card in her hand. On the card, the unicorn was looking at him. Madam, leave the rest to me, Gu Qingshan said. Lady Fusey nodded and tried her best to smile. Gu Qingshan, you have to return immediately. Before chaos absorbs prayers and awakens its awaitings, you have to reverse it. She used all of her strength to push Gu Qingshan's shoulder. The void of space behind Gu Qingshan broke apart to reveal the vast river of time, which directly swallowed Gu Qingshan. 8 trillion years later. The Bronze Palace of Chaos. Zhang Yongho and Yi Rushi were waiting for a result. Suddenly, lines of gray text appeared in front of their eyes. Frowny face. The apotheotic combat trial this time has been concluded. The apotheotic combat has ended. According to your performance, the deity of the era of chaos has been confirmed, currently transporting the challengers of the apotheotic combat. A gloomy fog slowly filled the palace, as if something was brewing. Zhang Yongho raised his glass and drank it all at once. Are you very nervous? Yi Rushi asked. There's nothing to be worried about. Yi Feili will definitely win. If there's really no other choice, there's still Gu Qingshan. There won't be any issues. Zhang Yongho pushed his sunglasses up a bit and casually said. The gray fog continued to surge and rise, slowly manifesting a figure. Yi Feili. He was still wearing the clown mask. His body was covered in terrifying wounds, but his entire body was glowing crimson like blood. His presence had undergone an overwhelming change. Ha, I should have one. The clown waved his hand at the two of them. The two of them calmed down. Not bad, you've grown much stronger, Zhang Yongho praised. That's Yi Feili? Why do I feel like he's a different person? Yi Rushi doubtfully asked. He's a bit different when he wears the mask. You'll understand once you get to know him more, Zhang Yongho smiled and said. The gray fog once again surged. The soul shrieker stepped out from the fog. Laughable fools, it's time for you to die, it smirked. The three of them were surprised and looked at it. I've won the trial, the deific authority of chaos is still mine. Following this, I shall lead the entire era to eliminate all of you insects, the soul shrieker roared. Zhang Yongho and Yi Rushi exchanged glances. Why did both of us say that we won? Who exactly won the deific authority of chaos? At this point, the clown looked around and doubtfully asked, Why don't I see Gu Qingshan and that raging flame traveler? A second later, lines of gray text suddenly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The raging flame traveler failed the trial and no longer exists. Gu Qingshan has disappeared. Zhang Yongho crushed the glass in his hand and shouted in a low voice. What do you mean by disappeared? Lines of gray text continued to appear. Frowny face. Disappeared means his whereabouts are unknown. Most likely, he encountered an inexplicable problem within an awaiting streamscape, then disappeared without a trace, Zhang Yongho pursued. Then, is he dead or alive? The gray text continued to appear. Most likely, due to him being a unique material, he was taken by an awaiting within the dreamscape as nourishment and energy. Zhang Yongho froze. Yi Feili froze. Yi-Ru-Shi scowled and muttered in a low voice. How is that possible? The gray text continued. This isn't an impossibility, so judging by the two who returned in the end, the following results have been determined. The victor of this apotheotic combat, Yi-Fei Li, Soul Shrieker, both of you have displayed your value in the trial. You are the deities that chaos needs. From now on, the two of you shall sit on opposite ends of the deific authority, becoming the two deities of the era of chaos. And now, I shall send you back to where the apotheotic combat began. Yi-Fei Li glanced at the Soul Shrieker. For the sake of fighting against this monster, Gu Shan will forever be gone. Damn it. Damn it. I refuse. I want to kill it. As Yi-Fei Li declared so, her killing intent boiled. The entire bronze palace trembled. Boundless gray fog enveloped Yi-Fei Li, Zhang Yongho, Yi-Ru-Shi, and the Soul Shrieker, then transported them away. One breath's worth of time later. The world of the spire. 4 clusters of gray fog descended from above, hovering in front of everyone. 2 of the gray mists immediately fought against each other. Yi-Fei Li's furious roar resounded from one of the clusters of gray fog. Die! Die! Trash monster, I don't care about the deific authority, I'll kill you first. Caught off guard, the Soul Shrieker shouted. How dare you, you're already my equal. Boom! The 2 clusters of gray fog scattered. Yi-Fei Li and the Soul Shrieker were still locked in combat. Both of them were engaged in a fierce battle. The ground beneath their feet broke apart, black cracks appeared in the sky. The shock waves from their battle turned into shock waves that created a sandstorm that pushed everyone back. Anna had been observing the changes in the battlefield, so she quickly flew forward, grabbed Zhang Yongho's hand and asked, "Where's Qing Shan?" Meeting Anna's clear eyes, Zhang Yongho lowered his head. "I don't know, you don't know?" Anna's gaze became focused, grabbed Zhang Yongho's collar, and whispered, "I want to know the truth, you can't lie to me." Zhang Yongho didn't dare to look her straight in the eyes and sighed. He should be. Anna felt like she was struck. She let go and took a few steps back. "No, I don't believe it." 2 streams of bloody tears flowed down her pale cheeks. Zhang Yongho couldn't say anything. Yi-Ru-Shi also sighed. In the sky, Yi-Fei Li seemed to have gone insane, fighting against the Soul Shrieker without any regard for her own life. All of this was reflected in Anna's eyes. All of this was telling her that the truth was true. Gu Shan. She really isn't here anymore. Arg! Anna uttered a long scream. Boundless will of death manifested as intense flames that enveloped her. The long-handled black scythe was stabbed into the ground. Anna hovered in the air and began to chant, "A power greater than life. An end's end that living beings cannot restrain. It's like fate, an irresistible destination. I am your ruler. I, Anna Medici, hereby offer up my soul in exchange for the last bit of divine power, the law of death. In the final moment of my existence, please grant me my final wish. I will avenge him." Chapter 1281. The black scythe silently flew up and hovered in front of Anna. Its entire body was enveloped in the flames of death and silence, waiting for Anna to grab it. Destruction and vengeance shall begin here. Anna reached her hand out. "Foolish woman," a cold female voice suddenly resounded in her mind. Anna was a bit surprised. This was Su Sher's voice. "She's here as well?" Following that, Su Sher's voice resounded again. "Fool, if Gu Shan is dead, why are you still alive? Think about your pendant." Anna froze. "That's right. The life substitution contract is still with Gu Shan. If something really happens to him, I'll die together with him. Wasn't this a very simple matter?" "How did I?" Su Sher's voice resounded again. "Maintain your anger, don't make any other expressions, just listen to me." The Inner Planes Starlight Empire's final civilization achievement, combined with impartial goddess research, facilitated a certain matter. "I'm currently in a deep state of evolution, unable to come here myself. I can only travel through space-time and connect my brainwaves with you." Anna was shocked. You can use your brainwaves to travel through spacetime without the help of the 3 coins? It's nothing. If even technological powers can't travel through spacetime, why would other powers be able to? Su Cher's voice finally sounded a bit more prideful. Anna, I didn't know you were thinking of sacrificing your soul, seeing how impulsive you were. I had no choice but to come out and stop you. Su Cher's voice became cold again. Anna, it's your turn. Help Yi Fei Li defeat that monster. Remember, don't sacrifice your soul again, just attack with everything you have. Anna was a bit confused. Su Cher seems to have changed from before. The original her, why would she resort to so many methods? Why would she use these methods, or even use me to achieve some sort of result? Her tone of voice was also different from before. It was as if she was standing in a dimension that no one could understand, observing the events of the Spire world. But all of that was secondary. The most important thing was that Gu Qingshan was fine. Anna regained her composure and silently asked, "The Soul Shrieker can't be killed, what exactly are you planning?" Su Cher said, "During my deep evolution, I used the senses of the 4th dimension to see what you guys are going through. Although I can't stop the era of chaos from granting power to the Soul Shrieker, we can seal it instead of killing it. Once you and Yi Fei Li have successfully restrained the Soul Shrieker, I'll stop my evolution, temporarily wake up, then throw this guy into a collapsed spacetime tomb." Spacetime tomb? Anna muttered in his heart. Su Cher immediately sensed her thoughts and replied, "Indeed, that was a branch of the River of Time, completely destroyed. Even if the Soul Shrieker is the deity of chaos, it wouldn't be able to escape from that place." "I understand," Anna said. Dispelling the soul technique from before, she reached out to grab the long black scythe and looked into the air. Yi Fei Li had already gone insane from fighting against the Soul Shrieker, completely forgetting everything else. The Soul Shrieker roared, "Deity of chaos, you're not worthy of being the deity of chaos. You're a madman who doesn't care about your own life." It infused divine retribution into its hands and struck Yi Fei Li with all its might. Yi Fei Li spat up a mouthful of blood, then the wings on her back attached to her hands to form a pair of sharp claws. "Ahahaha! My entire body is also filled with the power of chaos. Let's see who's more afraid of pain." Yi Fei Li laughed maniacally, then once again leapt forward like a wild dog and madly tore at the Soul Shrieker. The two of them rolled around in the sky, circling back and forth. Although the others also wanted to attack, they couldn't keep up with their movements. "Yi Fei Li, catch it for me!" Anna abruptly shouted. Yi Fei Li's expression flickered a bit and regained her senses. Although she didn't know what Anna was trying to do, since Anna made such a request, she must have her reasons. Yi Fei Li immediately rushed forward to receive the Soul Shrieker's divine retribution and embraced it without a care for anything else. Anna swung her scythe and leapt forward. "Chains of death, restraints of all beings, trap it for me!" The scythe abruptly scattered, turning into numerous black shadows that coiled around the Soul Shrieker's body. "Hurry, right now!" Anna shouted towards the void of space. From within the thick gray clouds, a streak of starlight descended from above. This star-like light slowly gathered and manifested into the figure of a woman. "Su Cher, with all of my power of fate, break through the wound of time, revealing the branch of destruction that had been isolated from the river of time to the world." She quickly chanted an incantation. The void of space parted. A dried-up river appeared in front of everyone. This river was filled with filth and dark destructive power, causing anyone who saw it to feel suffocated. "No, you can't," the Soul Shrieker angrily roared. Yi Fei Li rushed forward and punched the Soul Shrieker's body. Boom! The Soul Shrieker was sent flying, about to sink into the other side of the dried-up river. If it was exiled, it wouldn't be able to return for a very long period of time. Although Yi Fei Li was a deity of chaos, she wouldn't commit an act of destruction. Yi Rushi was the same. Order would welcome a period of stability and prosperity, leading all living beings to gradually grow stronger. All dangers would be resolved. We won. Anna clenched her fist. At this point, something unexpected occurred. A faint figure appeared in front of the crack in space and pushed with both hands. The crack began to shrink and collapse, causing the dried-up river of time to disappear from everyone's sight. The faint figure looked at Su Cher. Since you've fallen asleep at a certain point in the future, return to your slumber. After I've dealt with the matters here, I'll return to the future and eliminate you. He threw a punch from afar. Bam! Su Cher's figure of light was instantly destroyed. The faint figure turned around and looked at Yi Rushi. The farce is over, harbinger of the apocalypse's end. It is time for you to accept the mission of history. Following his words, the gray fog in the sky completely converged. This gray fog instantly became as bright as a star, so bright that everyone couldn't even open their eyes. The prayers of living beings accumulated over 10 trillion years have finally reached the point where it can be used. The figure muttered. Boom! Boundless light descended from above and enveloped Yi Rushi's body. Ayawa, this power, its prayers. Yi Rushi struggled with everything she had, but was caught by the faint figure and couldn't escape from this power. Her expression suddenly changed and screamed in panic. No! Hurry and stop him. I can't let him pour any more power into me, otherwise I'll summon an entity that can destroy everything. I'm currently providing power to those awaitings. At the very next split second, Yi Fei Li and Anna both rushed forward. The illusory figure merely waved its other hand. New deity of chaos, you fit our vision very well, but you harbor thoughts that you shouldn't have in you, death god of the inner plane. You've always looked down on outsiders like us, but your glory was ended by yourselves, and you're nothing more than a stray dog. Bam! Bam! Two heavy sounds of impact. The ground trembled without end. Yi Fei Li and Anna were both sent crashing into the ground, creating a deep crater. We can't let him succeed, we're going, Boss declared. Everyone quickly agreed. The faint figure grabbed Yi Rushi with one hand while pressing his other hand against the void of space. Ah, so it was the heavily wounded and dying Abyssal King, and all living beings, you must wait patiently. Very soon, you shall witness a historic moment. An invisible force descended from above, heavily suppressing everyone's body and preventing them from moving. Even with his full strength, Boss could only slowly move forward, one step at a time. Greatest above the star crown, I really didn't think you would end up like this, like a dog that can't control its own fate, the illusory figure said slowly. Boss remained silent and continued to move towards the illusory figure. The faint figure lightly waved his hand. Boss was sent flying, the star firefly in his hand scattered in the wind. Pitiful Abyssal King, your era has also passed. And now, after billions of years of scheming, the final moment has arrived. We shall soon obtain the right to decide our own fate, and this is not something you can change. Following the faint figure's words, the light descending from above grew brighter and brighter. Standing within the light, Yi Rushi slowly lost all hope. She sobbed. I don't want to summon them, I don't want to destroy the world. Why? Why must I endure such a fate? The faint figure excitedly replied, because this is the day of victory for chaos. All living beings, all things, everything shall be brought to an end. Then, the infinite worlds shall begin anew, and you are the decisive factor for all of this. Yi Rushi sobbed. Unprecedented supernatural phenomena began to manifest on her body. The faint image of a bronze gate slowly manifested behind her, slowly opening. All of a sudden, the sound of a flute resounded from somewhere. The light descending from above abruptly changed direction, disappeared from Yi Rushi's body, and flew towards a faraway mountain slope. A snow-white unicorn appeared on top of the mountain slope. A man was riding on the unicorn, lightly playing a flute. The prayers accumulated over trillions of years fell onto his body, manifesting as components that revolved around the man. This was such a strange sight that everyone couldn't take their eyes off of it. The man was still playing his flute as he headed towards the battlefield. A line of glowing text quickly appeared in front of his eyes. Frowny face, attention. The Demon King is about to attach himself to you and descend upon this world. Chapter 1282. Let's rewind time a little. Gu Qingshan was forcefully pushed by Lady Fusey and fell into the river of time, quickly flying back the way they came. In the void, a cold wind blew, and the long river was silent. Only he was like a rapidly flying stream of light, shuttling through billions of years of time with all his might. Soon. Hurry up! Gu Qingshan was secretly anxious. Even after he and Lady Fusey left, time continued to pass without stopping. He wondered what the final result of the godly ascension battle would be. He didn't even know if that chaotic shadow was lurking in the dark, spying on the direction of the war. Logically speaking, that shadow would definitely be waiting in the world of the Spire. I'll wait for Yi Ru Shi to be brought back to the world of the Spire, then trigger the prayers that the Demon King Order had been gathering for billions of years. This was the scene that the man had foreseen from the long river of history. This was also the final plan of the Chaos faction. If he couldn't make it in time, everything would become a reality just as he had planned. Gu Qingshan sighed and drew a card. Following his action, lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. Special card. Demon King's Descending Master. Description. Lady Fusey used several Dreamscape soul artifacts to slightly alter the Demon King Order. The unicorn is the core of the Demon King Order. The flute is the modified law of prayers. When you sit on the unicorn and blow the flute, the Demon King's wish power will immediately be infused into your body. Due to some deviation during the modification process, this Demon King's descent will only last for 7 seconds. As Gu Qingshan read these words, she couldn't help but recall Lady Fusey's words. This is indeed one of the most powerful weapons that we've ever created. We've calculated it. If the Demon King Order were to go through 1 trillion years and collect the prayers of all carriers during this period of time, it would only be able to allow an existence like the Demon King to descend for 10 seconds at most. 10 seconds had turned into 7. In such a short period of time, would they be able to turn the situation around? Gu Qingshan was not confident. He gave it his all, racked his brains, exhausted all methods, traveled millions of years, and finally obtained this card. This was his last chance, as well as the last chance of all living beings. Otherwise, if Chaos succeeds, the worlds will be completely destroyed. Gu Qingshan gripped the card tightly and looked forward. The road ahead was boundless, with no end in sight. Billions of years was too long. He did not know if he could make it in time. Unfortunately, I don't have the Demon King Order anymore, so I can't activate the 3 coins to speed up my travel. If he couldn't make it in time, Gu Qingshan shook her head, not wanting to think about the consequences. A female voice suddenly resounded from the void of space. Qingshan. Gu Qingshan suddenly looked up. Snow? Where are you? He cried. You don't need to look for me. I'm sleeping in the future and can't come to you, but I think I can help you. 2 streaks of starlight appeared beside Gu Qingshan. A ray of starlight condensed into Su Sher. Another ray of starlight condensed into an unfamiliar girl. This girl could no longer be described as beautiful. She was like a work of art. Through extremely precise adjustments and design, the most optimal method of evolution was calculated from the very beginning of life, finally manifesting the most natural beauty of humanity. She was like a peerless treasure nurtured by nature. She and Su Sher both put their hands on Gu Qingshan's shoulder and pushed. Sir, hurry, this is all we can do, the unfamiliar girl said. Do your best, Qingshan, you can definitely do it. Su Sher loudly called out. The 2 of them turned into streaks of starlight and disappeared from the river of time. Gu Qingshan suddenly sped up. The wind howled by his ears. His sleeves fluttered in the wind. The blinding river of time was being left behind in large chunks. Within the boundless darkness and light, Gu Qingshan suddenly noticed something. He took out a piece of divination armor and casually waved it. After obtaining the cultivation inheritance of the infinite worlds, his divination skills had already reached a higher level. Very quickly, a divination image appeared in front of his eyes. Excessive destruction, ominous, not guilty. Gu Qingshan's heart sank. 10 trillion years is too long, I still can't make it in time. All of a sudden, another voice resounded from the void of space. I can see you, it might be too late for you to return to that point of time. The giant corpse. This was the giant corpse's voice. How did you find me? Gu Qingshan asked in surprise. The giant corpse's voice resounded in his ears. Frowny face, order and chaos have traveled back and forth through the long river of history, all for the sake of obtaining the power to decide everything at that decisive moment. Their battle will soon decide the fate of all living beings. The various laws within the reality gate were affected by this and began to fluctuate intensely. How could I not pay attention to it? When, since you were part of it, I would naturally be able to notice you, Gu Qingshan said. Time is of the essence, please lend me a hand. I must make it to that moment. The giant corpse sighed. This is also the reason why I appeared. You must quickly calm down all the fluctuations, otherwise the intense fluctuations within the reality gate might draw the attention of some unknown entity. That would be too dangerous. As soon as he said so, Gu Qingshan felt someone pushing him from behind. His speed had increased. Thank you so much. The next time we go, I'll treat you to a drink. Gu Qingshan loudly said. Sha, like a flash of light, he disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. The giant corpse's sigh resounded from the void of space. Who would have thought, even I would get caught up in this? How regretful. My body has already been consumed, my powers are too weak. His voice slowly faded until it couldn't be heard anymore. Gu Qingshan was quickly flying forward. He couldn't see the scenery anymore, it had all turned into blurred lines that flew away from his body. At a certain point, finally, the front suddenly became clear and bright, revealing a clear light and shadow. He saw Boss being sent flying, as well as Yi Rushi's helpless cries. The final moment. According to the law of time, this was the moment he should have returned from 10 trillion years ago. I finally made it. Gu Qingshan didn't hesitate and entered this moment. As soon as he landed on top of the hill, he activated the card. Bam! A unicorn was riding on his back. The flute appeared in his hand. I can't waste a single second, I need to draw the prayers here right now. Gu Qingshan raised the flute to his lips and lightly blew it. Instantly, the boundless light peeled away from Yi Rushi's body and converged onto him. The prayers of 10 trillion years manifested as components that revolved around Gu Qingshan. A few lines of glowing text quickly appeared on the war god UI. Frowny face, attention, the Demon King is about to attach itself to you and descend upon this world. The Demon King component has been prepared, please choose your most powerful combat style. Once you choose your combat style, the Demon King component will turn into your weapon and fight alongside you. You will have 7 seconds to defeat your enemy. 7 seconds. The most powerful combat style. For some reason, Gu Qingshan's heart suddenly skipped a beat. He recalled Lady Fusie's words. That created entity will attach itself to the summoner, ignoring the restraints of causality and all laws to change everything. Wait a minute. My most powerful combat style, that's... Boom! A faint figure descended from above and struck Gu Qingshan with full force. What right do you have to take away the trillions of prayers that the Demon King Order gathered? Return them to me. The figure from the Chaos faction shouted. But it was useless. Now that Gu Qingshan carried the trillions of prayers and was confirmed and reinforced by the Demon King descent, the figure's attack was completely reflected. Almost instantly, the figure was sent flying by its own power. On the other hand, as Gu Qingshan heard the other party's words, his thoughts became clearer and clearer. Trillions of prayers, he murmured softly. A scene from his memories appeared once again. It was the first time he performed the living being sacrificial dance in the Bramble-Bird Kingdom. Sacrificial dance, how regretful, this bit of prayers, is still far from enough, the dry female voice said. Prayers. In Heaven Pillar World, when I wanted to communicate with the many broken worlds, the war god Ui reminded me frowny face during the previous ritual of the Earth God, you had used up all of your prayers, you cannot perform a second sacrificial dance here. Prayers. It's prayers. The scene in his memories changed. The moment when he saved the sacred chant angel. I dispelled the sacred chant angel's curse without even finishing the sacrificial dance. At the time, I was so exhausted that I couldn't help but descend from the void of space after using up the last bit of my spirit energy. It was a sacrificial dance to all the destroyed worlds of the past. The Earth God shall guard this sacrificial dance. When the dance is complete, it shall be offered to all of you. The female voice consoled the spirits of all the worlds. Indeed, the sacrificial dance, the living being sacrificial dance, this was the most powerful power. And now I have trillions of prayers. Gu Qingshan slowly raised his hand and clenched his fist. An unusual fluctuation emanated from his body, swept across the entire world, and continued to spread beyond the void of space. The power of the blessings of the past worlds. Sensing his thoughts, the Demon King components hovering in the air quickly gathered together to form a dull golden scepter that silently hovered in front of Gu Qingshan. The sacrificial scepter. This was the manifestation of trillions of prayers, the most powerful sacrificial scepter of the past worlds. Countless scenes of the past flashed past Gu Qingshan's eyes. Gu Qingshan sighed emotionally. The words from yesterday seemed to have reappeared, once again resounding in his ears. You are the final inheritor of the sacrificial dance. I ask you, do you want to finish this sacrificial dance? Yes. Puny divinity, you are still too weak, you need to quickly become stronger. The female voice slowly became faint and faded away. Chapter 1283. Gu Qingshan reached her hand out and held the scepter tightly. A line of glowing text appeared. Frowny face, the scepter is too heavy for this performance. It has automatically disintegrated into golden light that revolves around your body, preparing to awaken the sacrificial dance with you. The dark golden scepter turned into countless sprites of light that circled around Gu Qingshan's body. In the sky, the faint figure stood still and continued to unleash spells at Gu Qingshan, only to be reflected by the trillions of prayers on Gu Qingshan's body, and struck himself. At this point, another line of glowing text appeared on the war god Ui. Frowny face, because you haven't had prayers on you for too long and have traveled through spacetime, it is very difficult to directly trigger the sacrificial dance. You will need to perform the dance of prelude in order to activate the living being sacrificial dance. Dance of prelude? Gu Qingshan appeared confused. How do I know what the dance of prelude is like? Perhaps guessing what Gu Qingshan was thinking, a new line of glowing text appeared on the war god Ui. Frowny face, dance as you please. Perform the first stage of the sacrificial dance. The first stage of the sacrificial dance that I'm proficient in. Gu Qingshan took a deep breath and recalled the dances that she had learned. The image of the bald old man wearing a pair of beach shorts suddenly appeared in her mind. This dance. Gu Qingshan sneaked a glance at the battlefield. Within the cold wind, everyone was looking at him. All the soldiers of the 900 million world layers who came to participate in this war were looking at him as if he was their savior, waiting for him to display his might. They couldn't be blamed for this. After all, it was Gu Qingshan himself who activated the 3 coins and brought everyone back to the past. In front of everyone, he activated the apotheotic combat and fought against the deity of chaos. At the very last moment, he rode his unicorn and played his flute, stealing the Demon King Order's trillions of prayers. Not even the faint figure could stop him. Logically speaking, it was time for him to act and save the world. After all, everything he did had always been cool, on point, and impressive. That was what everyone was thinking. But only Gu Qingshan knew, he needed a dance first. 1, 2, 3. He counted to 3, clenched his teeth, and braced himself. He shook his head, swung his arms, spun, twisted his waist, and kicked his legs. Then, he did a small kick on the spot, stamped his feet, and stood on the spot again. A cold wind blew. The world was deathly silent. Everyone stared at him without moving. Gu Qingshan was also motionless. She looked into the void, avoiding everyone's gaze. Could it be that at this last moment, he still had to care about his pride and miss the chance to save everything? Thinking of this, Gu Qingshan straightened her back even more. The next second, a new line of glowing text appeared on the war god Yue. Your movements are too fast and too vague. Some of the places that should be fixed were not fixed. You are not nimble enough, so you did not meet the passing mark. This sacrificial dance wasn't triggered or activated by you. You need to start over. Good luck. Gu Qingshan froze in place. All right, I knew it, nothing in life is easy, he muttered, slowed down his movements, and once again moved his body. Glittering golden light danced with him, swayed his head left and right, pouted his lips, swung his arms 360 degrees, spun 720 degrees in place, twisted his waist, straightened his hips, swung his buttocks, kicked his legs. Then there was a clean kick, stamped his feet, regained his footing. A complete set of movements. Gu Qingshan froze in place, afraid that he would have to dance again due to the slightest mistake. At this point, even the cold wind had stopped. On the battlefield, there was still a deathly silence. Everyone looked at Gu Qingshan, unsure of what to think. What exactly is he doing? Other than a few people, no one else could understand what was happening in front of their eyes. The Pixie King lowered his voice and whispered, Father, what is he trying to do by dancing? Is he trying to give us some information? The long-bearded old man also whispered, I'm not sure either, but I know something else. What is it? To be able to perform such a shameful dance at such a crucial moment. He is truly a flirtatious man. The two pixies had lowered their voices to a whisper. But of all the professionists who came from the infinite worlds to participate in this war, which one of them was a pushover? Everyone heard the pixie's words. That's right, this dance was truly flirtatious. But then, flirtatious is flirtatious, but what about the war? Gu Qingshan shamelessly ignored that and stared closely at the war god Yue. This time I should be able to pass, right? A line of glowing text quickly flashed on the war god Yue. Frowny face, congratulations. You've surpassed the barrier of space-time and successfully activated the official living being sacrificial dance. As soon as the glowing text appeared, a dry, hoarse female voice resounded in the sky. Who is it? Who called upon the infinite worlds to perform the sacrificial dance in the past? With a single thought from Gu Qingshan, the golden sprites of light around his body abruptly became extremely bright. The golden light spread across the entire world like an avalanche. The twin swords heaven and earth automatically appeared from the void of space, and were held in his hand. Milady, I want to try again, Gu Qingshan said. So, that's how it is, the female voice sounded a bit glad. Following that, her voice resounded in Gu Qingshan's mind. Close your eyes and listen to me, your time is very limited, you must sacrifice all the worlds of the past within 7 seconds, as well as complete this war of yours. The situation is unique, fortunately, you have trillions of prayers on you, so you don't need to perform the dance of the Earth God anymore. I will personally teach you the secrets of the sword dance, with my personal teachings. You will be able to directly enter the 4th stage of the living being sacrificial dance. Use the 7 swords to release trillions of prayers and complete everything. While she spoke, Gu Shan felt another piece of information appearing in her mind. A second later, the female voice became extremely solemn. The unfinished sacrificial dance shall now begin. Gu Shan abruptly opened his eyes and replied, "Understood." He took a step forward. The sound of the war drums resounded, filled with killing intent and as rapid as a thunderstorm. Without any preparation, Gu Shan swung the heaven sword in a graceful arc towards the sky. The sky was cut apart. All the gray fog of chaos scattered and disappeared together with the sky within the boundless space vortex. Chaos had been blasted out of this world, disappearing without a trace. The first strike, sacrificial sword, a sky shatter. Following that, various strange entities manifested from the void of space. These entities of unknown origins were gigantic, humanoid in shape, their limbs resembled claws, but they had no faces. They were all staring at Gu Shan as if waiting for something. In accordance with the unfinished promise from last time, they were here to witness a complete sacrifice. Gu Shan didn't have time to greet these remnant spirits of worlds. He only had 7 seconds, so he had to hurry and perform the 7 strikes. He held the earth sword in his hand, drew layers upon layers of sword images, and stabbed it deep into the ground. The second strike, sacrificial sword, earth burial. On the other side of the battlefield, the soul shrieker abruptly roared, "No! I am the deity of chaos. Era, grant me power, I shall bestow divine retribution." It raised both hands and fully channeled the power of chaos. In the distant void, there was indeed an endless amount of gray light descending from the sky, landing on its body. But before it could act, Gu Shan had shouted in a low voice, "Down!" The ground split open. Countless souls in pain crawled out from the ground and clung onto the soul shrieker. "Scram!" the soul shrieker shouted. But these were the souls of countless living beings that had died in its hands. These souls overlapped and worked together to pull the soul shrieker away. No matter how strong the soul shrieker was, it couldn't deal with the pulling of countless souls at once. In the blink of an eye, it was dragged underground. Gu Shan immediately released the heaven sword. The third strike. The heaven sword swiftly circled around the earth sword like a bright gleam of light. Sacrificial sword, offering of sacrifice. At some unknown point, the remnant spirits of worlds in the sky had already descended and entered the ground. Using the power of the sacrifice formed from trillions of prayers, they entered the ground and began to absorb all of the soul shrieker's power. Following this, no matter how much power chaos bestowed upon it, it would all be absorbed by the remnant spirits of worlds. The soul shrieker had always viewed destroying worlds and spreading chaos as its mission, and now it was being used as a sacrifice to the living beings that died at its hands, as well as the worlds that were destroyed at its hands. Whatever power it brought to chaos, it would all be returned at this very moment. This was its final resting place. A second later, Gu Shan's expression became extremely solemn. His gaze fell onto the faint figure in the sky. This guy. Gu Shan reached his hand out, grabbed the Chao Yin sword from the void of space, pointed it at the other party from afar. As the other party coldly chuckled, Gu Shan stabbed the sword into his own chest. Strangely, there were no wounds on his body and no blood flowed out. The fourth strike, sacrificial sword, a suffering of all beings. This was the sword of interrogation. The damage it was supposed to inflict on oneself would ignore all of the other party's defenses and directly affect the other party's soul and body. "No, what are you?" The faint figure clutched his chest, broke through the void of space, and vanished from this world. Gu Shan gripped the sword and forcefully twisted it into his own chest. A corpse fell from the sky. Bam! The corpse fell to the ground. Gu Shan didn't look at the corpse anymore. He was about to unleash the next strike. The Devil King Warden rod was casually thrown forward and accurately stabbed into the corpse. The Devil King Warden rod shook. Gu Qingshan retracted his gaze, pulled the Chao Yin sword out of his chest, and danced around with it in hand. All of this took a long time to describe, but it all happened in just a few seconds. Even the slightest bit of hesitation or mistake would have wasted precious time. Fortunately, Gu Qingshan remained calm and solemn. The fifth strike, sacrificial sword, world reversal offering. The sacrificial offering's power absorption rate increased by 10 times. All of the power would be converted and absorbed by the incomplete world spirit. Immediately, the soul shrieker's painful and unwilling roar resounded from deep underground. Don't even think, I am the deity of chaos. However, the gray pillar of light that descended from above abruptly disappeared. The era of chaos had endless power, but the remnant world spirits of the infinite worlds were constantly absorbing its power, so even it couldn't endure this endless consumption. After weighing the pros and cons, chaos gave up on the soul shrieker. The ground shook intensely, then returned to normal. Gu Qingshan immediately noticed the soul shrieker's complete death. At this moment, he felt a myriad of emotions. This monster that had been constantly competing against me since the age of old had finally been slain in this world. Don't get distracted, the hoarse female voice reminded him. Gu Qingshan let go of the Chao Yin sword and took out an autumn water clear blue sword. The Six Paths Great Mountain Sword. He wielded the sword with both hands and slashed at the void of space. The sixth strike, sacrificial sword, space-time offering. From the river of time, sprites of light that looked like meteors flew up and landed in this world. They landed on the battlefield and lightly lined up. As everyone looked closely, they saw that the prayers on these sprites of light had faded away to reveal the true form of ice crystals. Each of these ice crystals contained a slumbering warrior. They were the survivors that Lady Black Sea sent away in the past. Because little she had guaranteed that these people would be able to stay inside the ice crystals for a very long time, and since Gu Qingshan couldn't leave, it was now the perfect time to save them all. Bro, they're still alive. Meow excitedly shook Bali's arm. I can see. Bali showed a warm smile. Lady Black Sea appeared from the void of space, nodded to Gu Qingshan, and walked towards the ice crystals. She didn't need to die, so she naturally had a way to dispel the ice crystals and save these people. Gu Qingshan turned around. The four swords hovered in the air, moving with him. Gu Qingshan let go of the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword and wielded the twin swords Heaven and Earth again. He took a deep breath and focused his mind. Following this was the final strike of the sacrificial sword. Everything would be changed. Chapter 1284. Within the silence, an old voice resounded. According to the latest news from the Spire Keeper Association, the first level 35 wizard of this world has been born. He expressed that he is currently feeling well and is grateful for everyone's concern and help. What do you think was the reason for his current strength? Another slightly nervous voice rang out. I believe it was first and foremost because I carried the human army. Through completing various cultivation quests, my strength had greatly increased. This was Lady Black Sea's help, of course. The one I'm most grateful to is that flirtatious man. You know who I'm talking about. Without that flirtatious man's dance and sword, I would have forever been destroyed in history together with the world of the Spire without a chance to revive. Clang. The newspaper was closed, both the sound and the image disappeared. How many days has it been? Yunji tossed the newspaper aside and asked. 19 days, Zhang Young-ho replied. How boring, I'm either cultivating or playing cards every day. I'm going to get rusty at this rate, Bali commented. Bam, I won. Pay up, I'm telling you, don't go back on your words, Chen Wang said. They were playing cards. The door was suddenly pushed open as a few pixies flew in. Oi, it's so boring to hide here. Come out and join a ball, the long-bearded old man said in a drunken tone. We're not going, the four of them replied at the same time. Jang Young-ho face-bombed and muttered, "You've already hosted 35 balls in a row, can't you just rest for a day?" The long-bearded old man glared at him, landed on the table, and pointed his short stick at him. "Time is short, we're finally cut off from the rest of the world and can enjoy ourselves for a bit, and yet you're playing cards here? Don't you know that as soon as you leave, you'll have to face the frenzied main body of the abyss and the samsara world?" Everyone fell silent. Seeing that they couldn't continue playing, Bali stood up. "Let's go, Inghao, let's play around." Jang Young-ho thought for a second. After Bali carried World's Apocalypse Online Human Army, he became stronger and stronger. But if he drank with the long-bearded old man for an entire night, he'd have a headache the next day. It was a terrible feeling. Comparing the two, fighting was more interesting. "It just so happens that my combat training mission hasn't started yet. Madam Black Sea, please activate the mission for me," Jang Young-ho immediately said. He stood up and walked out with Bali. The long-bearded old man stared at him, then at Bali, but didn't dare to say anything. Bali was the boss of the Iron Fist Club. That extremely coquettish man was also a member of the Iron Fist Club. He couldn't afford to offend them. Forget it, there are two more here, huh?" The long-bearded old man looked at the card table, only to see that Calamity Yunji had already disappeared. Only Chen Wang was still counting his winnings, calculating the outcome of the entire game. "You bunch of fellows, humph. You don't even know how to enjoy yourselves. Just wait to cry when you get out of here," the long-bearded old man said angrily. "Get out." Chen Wang put all the money away and casually said, "We've been trapped here for so long, who knows when we'll be able to get out, so let's not think too much about it for now." He stretched his back and stood up. "Let's go, I'll drink with you for a bit." The long-bearded old man was overjoyed and said, "Ahaha, sure enough, Lord Chen is a good friend. There are fewer and fewer people who dare to compete with us pixies in drinking. You're definitely the best drinker among humans." Of course I was. "The one who brought Bali to drink for the first time, ah? How much did you drink?" "Not a lot, that place isn't a good place to drink." "Not a good place to drink? Pixies, don't mind our human business, you wouldn't understand even if I told you." Bali and Jang Young-ho followed the stairs to the top floor of the spire, opened the door, and went out. Miao was sitting at the edge of the stone wall, her feet dangling off the wall as she wrote. Next to her, Yiru she was carefully reading a book. She pondered. "Miao, your 5th chapter's plot is a bit too broad, and the description is too detailed, won't that be a bit?" Miao waved her hand without minding it. "It's fine, we're trapped here anyway, no one can stop me. I'll prepare a few chapters first, then publish a new book after we get out. I'll update it with 100,000 words in one go. Let's see if anyone can still say that I'm missing chapters." "Ah-ha-ha," she laughed triumphantly. Yiru she, on the other hand, had a complicated expression. Putting her book down, she sighed. "Get out? I really don't know how long it'll be before we can get out." Everyone couldn't help but look up at the sky. The entire world of the spire had been enveloped by a colorful barrier of light, preventing anything from entering or leaving. Outside of the barrier was the vast river of time. Countless historical moments, characters, and scenes were passing through the river. The world of the spire was like an island that floated along the river, drifting along with the current. No one was able to leave this island. Similarly, nothing that happened outside could affect anything that happened on this island. A figure flew in from afar, landing on the top floor of the spire. "Yi Fei Li." Everyone turned to him. "Have there been any changes today?" Bali asked. Yi Fei Li shrugged and replied. "He's still immersed in that sword strike, and Anna is watching over him, so I came back." Bali clapped his hands. "All right, go do what you need to do. Since you've carried that order, do your best to cultivate and wait until the barrier of light disappears. When we return to the flow of time, everyone will have enough power to fight against the Wraith Realm. Of course, regarding the Abyss." His gaze turned towards a certain corner. Boss was sitting on a deck chair in the corner, slowly sipping from a bottle of energy drink. Sensing Bali's gaze, he slowly put the can down and said, "I've told you many times, once we leave, the eternal abyss would definitely not receive any reinforcements, it would sense some sort of danger due to its defeat and fully awaken. You had better pray that you don't run into a fully awakened eternal abyss, otherwise, as soon as it senses you, you would immediately die due to not being able to endure this sensation. Then what about you? You're the king of the abyss. Can you make it return to slumber?" Yiru, she asked. Boss smiled bitterly. "While it's asleep, I can help it manage everything, but after it awakens, if I still try to interfere, that would be the same as asking for my own death. What exactly does its body look like?" Yi Fei Li asked again. "A few scattered organs, a bit similar to a human, but unable to form a complete body," Boss replied. "The first to awaken would be the eyeball, after that, there's no telling," saying so, he picked up the can again and began to sip from it. Jang Young-ho sighed, then said, "The eternal abyss, the wraith realm, the samsara, the outside world is too terrifying. I really miss the time when I didn't know anything back in my homeworld." Yi Fei Li nodded in agreement. Seeing how everyone was feeling a bit dejected, Miao put her pen down and said, "It's okay, we still have Gu Qingshan." An old man wearing a pointy hat flew into the air, and continued her words. "That is indeed the case. That single strike of his resurrected everyone who died in the Battle of the Spire, while also avoiding the laws of fate and time to create this lone island that was isolated from the river of time. Not even a deity would be able to accomplish such a feat, so I believe that with him here, we would be able to deal with any difficulties." The old man greeted everyone one by one. He was the chairman of the Spire Society, who originally died to the Soul Shrieker's soul-sucking ability, only to be resurrected thanks to Gu Qingshan's final strike. "Old man, why are you here?" Bali asked. "Just now, I performed a divination together with Calamity Yunji. We predicted that Gu Qingshan would soon exit her deep meditative state," the Spire Society's chairman replied. "What?" everyone exclaimed in unison. Miao jumped up and said, "Come, let's go take a look." She vanished from the void of space. Everyone else also flew up and headed towards the faraway world. The battlefield. Gu Qingshan stood still. 4 swords silently hovered behind his back. For the past dozen days, he had kept his eyes closed, immersed in the final strike he unleashed in the past. It was the ultimate sword dance of the sacrificial 7 swords. The end of the sacrificial sword, the sacrifice of worlds' resurrection. Chapter 1285. Deep within Gu Qingshan's thought sea. His soul vessel had manifested and was standing on one side, carefully observing the strike he unleashed. Although it was a single strike, it was actually the twin swords heaven and earth. Trillions of prayers drifted around the heaven sword, giving off a strange summoning sound. Countless milky white sprites of light emerged from the ground, crawling all over the blade of the sword, then manifested into unique runes as Gu Qingshan swung it. World Origin Runes. These were the various origin runes that formed the world, using the secrets of everything born within primal chaos to naturally manifest as runes. After absorbing the power of both the Soul Shrieker and the era of chaos, the broken world spirits were refined into the most fundamental primordial entities by Gu Qingshan's sacrificial sword dance. With their various characteristics, they once again manifested as the various laws of origin. Without hesitation, Gu Qingshan swung the earth sword in his other hand and unleashed a cold sword phantom. He shouted, "All living beings, due to the power of the infinite world's laws, manifest their retribution." The ground abruptly broke apart. The Soul Shrieker's corpse flew out from the ground, disintegrating into countless gloomy shadows in the air. These were all the people who died during the Battle of the World of the Spire due to the Soul Shrieker's attack. Gu Qingshan stared closely at the twin swords in his hands. One sword was filled with the origin of the infinite worlds. One sword was the spirit of the infinite world's living beings, and he himself carried trillions of prayers, using the living being's sacrificial sword dance to complete his final sacrifice. This is the moment, the dry, hoarse female voice urged him. Without hesitation, Gu Qingshan raised the heaven sword in one hand and pointed it at the sky. The earth sword in the other hand pointed at the ground and chanted, "Causality reversal, sacrifice of infinite worlds resurrection, complete." At the very next moment, on the land that was full of ruins, towers rose from the ground. Countless warriors appeared at the place where they had died, all resurrected, while the countless world origin runes on the heaven sword had all fused into one to form a pulsating, translucent ball of light. Gu Qingshan spoke to the ball of light. Because of the trillions of prayers and the Demon King's descent, the laws of spacetime from the outside are temporarily unable to enter, but once the sacrificial dance is over, the laws of spacetime and fate will definitely not let you go. Come into my eye technique. This is the place where you can recuperate and gradually grow. The translucent light ball seemed to be intelligent. After listening to Gu Qingshan's words, it nodded in the air, shrank rapidly, and rushed into Gu Qingshan's left eye. A line of glowing text appeared. You've absorbed the remnant souls of the worlds to create a brand new world. Your world technique is changing. First it was the Azure Dragon Shadow Hex, now it was her world technique. Gu Qingshan's supernatural powers were all undergoing unprecedented changes. However, he couldn't care less about these things. That dry and hoarse female voice was quickly reminding him, "Don't worry. Remember, you changed history. You changed everything in the past. You made fate, time, and cause and effect go against each other. This world cannot return to its original position, otherwise, once the shock waves of the sacrificial dance dissipate, it will be erased by the power of fate and spacetime. Then, what should I do?" Gu Qingshan asked. The female voice replied, "Relax, I'll perform a single strike to use up the remaining soul points. It'll also ensure your safety." Gu Qingshan then relaxed. All of a sudden, he noticed that his hand had been raised, grabbing the Chao Yin sword from the void of space. His feet were moving back and forth as he performed a sword dance that he had never seen before. A brilliant barrier of light slowly manifested in the sky, separating this world from the outside world. "Senior," Gu Qingshan hurriedly said. Right after that, he heard himself saying, "It's fine, I'll just borrow your body to complete this profound secret dance. I will turn this world into a lone island drifting in spacetime. You will continue to drift along the river of spacetime towards the future, until the fluctuations of fate and time completely settle down." Boom! The world of the spire began to shake intensely. "It's fine, the world has already left its original position and is drifting," the female voice replied. Following her words, Gu Qingshan saw various images appearing in the sky. This was something that had already happened in the river of spacetime. Gu Qingshan saw himself wandering around the strife zones in one of the images, searching for a chance to become stronger. At the same time, he felt himself regaining control over his body. This time, you've completed the world offering dance and comprehended the fourth stage of the sacrificial dance. Remember, practice it often and try to rank up the living being's sacrificial dance, the hoarse female voice told him. "Yes, thank you for your guidance, Senior," Gu Qingshan replied. The hoarse female voice continued, "Take care of yourself, I hope that you'll be able to come to the dusty world one day." Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised and asked, "Senior, I've been to the secret passage and reached the Giant of Beginning's location in the clouds. If possible, how about I go to the dusty world right now?" He suddenly felt a burning sensation on his wrist. Looking down, he saw that it was the twine of Cloud Atlas. The hoarse female voice spoke up again. "This twine of luck is the key to passing through the clouds and reaching the dusty world." Gu Qingshan's homeworld. What are they trying to do to my homeworld? Gu Qingshan felt tense. The scene scattered and manifested again. The ancient world. All the black skeletons had disappeared. The ground was now filled with writhing black muscles. The giant corpse coughed up blood as he breathed heavily. He appeared to be on the verge of death. Originally, there was only a skeleton left on his body, but this time, numerous writhing black muscles were growing from his body. Strangely, these black muscles didn't seem to be part of his body, but rather had their own will. Although the Crimson Demon Divine Spear was powerful enough to harvest the writhing flesh, it could only barely keep the giant corpse's head from being covered by the flesh. At this point, the giant corpse suddenly noticed Gu Qingshan. Among all the scenes of the future, he was the only one who spoke. "You can actually see the future?" Gu Qingshan stared at him. Only his head was still visible. His entire body, and even the bronze pillar, were covered in black muscles. "What exactly is this?" Gu Qingshan felt a chill in his heart and spoke. "Hold on a bit longer, once I return to the future, I'll come and save you." The giant corpse tiredly looked at him, then suddenly said, "No, don't come, the reality gate is about to be breached." Gu Qingshan froze. The giant corpse continued. "The future is only death, other than that, there is nothing else. Live in the past." Gu Qingshan never reached the future. The scene scattered and reformed in the light. The final scene appeared. Xie Dao Ling was riding a dragon, flying through the endless void of space. In front of her was a woman clad in endless starlight. This woman was just standing there casually, but behind her, countless worlds were falling into destruction. Gu Qingshan's pupils dilated. "I've seen this woman before. Renedal. Who would have thought she would meet Shifu? No. That can't be right. From the looks of it, she was waiting for Shifu." Gu Qingshan's heart started beating faster. Renedal looked at Xie Dao Ling and muttered, "After countless years, I've finally found you. Now you shall be destroyed forever." She reached her hand out. "No!" Gu Qingshan abruptly shouted. All of a sudden, the light faded. Everything returned to darkness, unable to be seen or heard. Gu Qingshan abruptly opened his eyes and breathed heavily. "You're finally awake, Qingshan," someone patted him on the shoulder. It was Bali. "Yay, you're finally awake," a soft body leapt into his embrace. It was Anna. "Oi, we're all here, pay attention to your image, it's fine, big sis Anna has been waiting for so long, what the Queen said makes sense." Zhang Yongho, Lola Yi Feili. Another person praised, "Well done. That last sword strike was quite similar to when I was at the peak of my power." Without a doubt this was Boss. From afar a drunken voice resounded. "Oh! The most flirtatious man in the world has awoken, everyone get moving, we're going to have a grand party tonight." The pixies also arrived. Gu Qingshan looked at everyone, at their expressions of either warmth or concern. He silently clenched his fist. The corner of his mouth slowly blossomed into a smile. "Ah, can someone give me a bottle of liquor?" He spoke in his usual relaxed tone. The strong liquor quickly arrived. Gu Qingshan raised his head and gulped it all down. Bitter. Strong. Flames spread throughout his body. "Oi, you drank too fast," Anna worriedly said, then hurriedly patted his back. "To celebrate, I've decided to have a good drink tonight. Everyone must come," Bali spoke with a confident tone. "Yay!" Everyone cheered. More and more people responded. Bali looked at Gu Qingshan. "Do you have any questions?" Everyone turned to Gu Qingshan, waiting for his answer. Gu Qingshan went silent for a brief moment. These people. These lovely people. The future. That future, no. I swear on my sword, that future will never come. Under everyone's gaze, Gu Qingshan smiled faintly. "When have I ever had any questions about drinking?" You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.